Thank you very much for the good luck and dog speed there. I love that. That's great. Hello, everybody. Welcome
Yeah.
back. We're reading light novels. We're on
Hello.
volume 12 of Mushoku Tensei. I think Moon Moon is still sick. I have not
Mm.
heard anything from Moon Moon. He may still be recovering, and yeah, if he doesn't think he can read, that's fine. He doesn't have to. We can just do something else. We can have Shem read again, which is very very fun. Um, and I think, names they escape me. Sonic. He said he was going to be a little bit late, so that's how things are going. And sorry if I'm like sounding like I'm not fully here. I am working on stuff for Overlord. Are we finishing the book tonight? I don't know if we're going to be able to finish it tonight, but we're gonna chew through a good amount of it as much as we can. Um, but yeah, I'm working on Overlord in the background, guys. So yeah, we're one scene away from having the first draft entirely done. But because Overlord is so big, we're having to do things a little bit differently. We're not working on the whole thing all in one go. We're doing it scene by scene. So some scenes are finished with video and are already being worked on in the audio side of things, and then other scenes we've got like some touch ups, and then we've also got like one scene left. It's the final scene for that. Um, the downside, of course, is YouTube being YouTube, we're gonna get copyright claimed. We're gonna have to fight all that stuff, and if they strike it, if they counter our counter, it's gonna take 10 business days, which means it won't come out in time for Halloween. Which means we will instead show it here on Twitch. Just a heads up, that is the plan. If it looks like we are unable to have it be up on Halloween on YouTube, we'll do it on Twitch, and we'll do it the same way. We'll do two showings of it. And she does have a habit of movie IRC. Okay, so don't stress if my volume fluctuates. Oh, okay. Yeah, my bad. Moving, yes, moving. I was like, what does movie have to do? But moving, yeah. Uh, I'll try and hold still long enough, but I'm ADHD, and the H is very strong with me. Um, so I do a lot of moving. Holding still is not something that I typically do. That being said, yeah, I'm going to be working on stuff in the background. Hopefully things go well and we can get it up on YouTube in time. But I'm not going to hold my breath, and I don't think anyone else is either. We've still got a bunch of different moving parts, and I'm going to be reaching out to a whole bunch of different mofos, just trying to make sure that we're firing on all cylinders. And if nothing else, the quality of the episode is more important than meeting a deadline. So
Hmm.
we're gonna get it out in time for Halloween, regardless. It's just a question of whether it's gonna be on YouTube or Twitch. Also, yes, as soon as it's finalized and ready, and we have it good to go, we're gonna upload it to Streamable, and I'm gonna share it in the production server for cast and crew and the uh, top tier, top 3 tiers on Patreon. They do get stuff early if you're part of the group that gets to jump in on the production server. So that's for the 25 and up tier on our Patreon. So shameless plug for that. And then either within a couple hours or the next day, we will drop it on Patreon. But for the general public, they're either going to have to wait for YouTube or Twitch. I think I've said my piece on this. Oh boy. And then right after that, I have to move on to Slime 10, like immediately. And then start wrapping up things for Solo Leveling 3. There's a whole bunch of
Hmm.
moving pieces. Yeah. Woo! Uh, the copyright stuff for episode 2 of Solo Leveling Abridged should be done tomorrow or Wednesday. That's what we're looking at because it's the 10 business days. That's the thing. So they haven't said anything back, so it looks like we'll probably get the video back. But guys, just be a little bit patient with it. I'm not uploading the video until I have the subtitles done. Once the subtitles are done, or not uploading the video, but I'm not going to set the time for the video to premiere until I have the subtitles because I want to make sure that you're not getting that janky YouTube auto translate nonsense. So, that being said, thank you guys. We'll see you in a bit. Enjoy. And yeah, that's going to be it for me. Since you're here, Shem, take it away. I believe we were last on chapter 9. You know, it's been a minute since I did this, so I'm gonna go ahead and just do it for old time's sake.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen of the congregation.
The shimmy has been done.
No, shimmy has been done. You didn't have to shimmy, but I appreciate the shimmy.
Yes.
Yes, open your holy books of Rudyism. That's the term I'm using temporarily for this. That's so freaking. You could call it Roxyism. That's what he worships. He worships her panties.
That is true.
Yeah.
And she is very relevant in this chapter. So
it is. We are now at volume 12, chapter 9. That's where we are in the story.
Yeah.
So we're at the tail end of season 2 of Mushoku Tensei.
Yeah.
Hi, Moon. Are you feeling better? That's okay. If you're not up to it, if you're not up to reading, if you don't think that you're in a state where you should read in long bursts, we will have Shim read today.
Yeah.
Is that better? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you think you're going to be clearing your throat every 5 minutes because your lungs are full of phlegm, then
it's at least not every 5 minutes, more like every 10, but you know.
Oh, okay.
So
that's good. You got some tea or some soup around you?
Yeah, I had some tea
hear a lot of
That's good.
Nah, I'm going to mute myself once he starts reading.
There you go. I've already done the pre-roll stuff, so yeah, we can go ahead. You just missed it, man. You just missed it. I did a ladies and gentlemen of the congregation for old time's sake. Yeah, I know. Haven't heard that in a while. Yeah, haven't heard that in a while. Maybe when we get back to slime, I'll do it again. Who knows?
Fair enough. Hopefully tomorrow or the day after.
We were debating whether we should call it the Holy Book of Rudyism or Roxyism.
Technically, this would be Roxyism, I guess, because that's his god.
Yeah. He worships her panties. I mean, might as well. Or he worships the keepsake that he has. It's an odd keepsake, to be sure, but a welcome one. That being said, Shem, take it away. Chapter 9, moving on. Like I said, I'm going to bury myself in the background and get back to work. All right.
Bye. So thank you for your sacrifice, Shem.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all good. Yeah. We're good. Chapter 9. Mortal Kombat. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, sorry. Let me see. I don't have the voice for that. Because you have to scream that at the top of your lungs. The Hydra made for an imposing figure waiting for us in that spacious room. Behind it was a magically imbued crystal. There wasn't a shadow of a doubt in my mind that it was indeed Zenith who was sealed within. Okay, let's do this! Paul dashed ahead. He crouched low to the ground like a dog, moving like the wind. At a speed that left the rest of us in the dust, except this time, Helena Lee stuck right behind him. Behind her was the slow-legged tall hand. We matched his pace as we advanced. Geese was on standby behind us. He would be useless in this fight, considering he had no way to deal damage. Still, he remained. His duty was to escape and tell the others what had happened if our party failed and was wiped out. Paul reached the Hydra. In the same instant, 3 of its heads moved to strike. The beast was quick for its size, agile and nimble enough the beast was quick for its size, agile and nimble enough that each of its heads looked like wild snakes as they moved. But then Paul blurred, and in that instant, he sliced right through one of the creature's necks. Okay, this is it! Fireball! I lifted my staff and poured all the mana I could within, packing the flames with heat before launching them at the Hydra. But it was futile. The closer the fireball drew to its target, the more it shrank in size. It evaporated the instant it hit. The only thing it left behind was that unpleasant screech like nails on glass. Ping. Guess I'll have to get Guess I'll have to get up close and launch it directly, I sighed. I had to slam my fire magic into it at melee range to cauterize the stumps of its necks. Just like we planned, said Roxy. Rudy, can you do it? I've got this. It's not like magic is the only thing I've been practicing, I assured, even as my heart hammered. I wasn't good at melee. All my memories of close combat were tainted with defeats, starting with Paul, then Ghislaine, then Eris, and then finally Ruijerd. Never had I been able to beat any of them at close range. Sure, I'd won battles before, against Linnea, Persenna, and Luke. There were others whom I'd bested with the help of my eye of foresight too, but could any of them have beaten the Hydra? No, I didn't see how they could. Not when Paul and Elena Lise were both struggling. It was illogical to think I could win against it either. But I wasn't fighting alone this time. I had a team. Paul, Elena Lise, and Roxy were all with me. I didn't know the extent of Tallhand's power, but if he was at all comparable to the others, he would prove useful as well. I moved as swift as I could, coming up just behind Paul. Rudy, you stay right behind me! I heard him shout back at me. To his right was Elena Lise, and to his left, Tallhand. Behind us, Roxy. This was precisely the Imperial Cross formation. Oh, hold on. All at once, 3 of its heads came snapping towards us. The Hydra didn't move more than 4 of them at a time. Perhaps that was the extent of its ability to attack. Or maybe it was simply that any more heads than that would get in each other's way. I wasn't sure, but this was good news for us. Ha! Ah! Lena Lise parried one head while Tallhand deflected another. Paul cut off the third, which dropped to the ground, writhing. Go! Yeah! Paul bellowed a command at me, and I approached the wiggling stump, launching my magic at it. The flames licked upwards, illuminating the area as it scorched the open wound. The meat on its neck sizzled, churning a charred black. How's that? I inched back to observe my work, but it was still too early to tell. Before I could confirm anything, other heads came whirring at us. Paul blocked one, and Elena Lise deflected the others with her shield. In the corner of my vision, I caught a spray of blood coming from Tallhand. Ugh! Let this divine power be a satisfying nourishment. Healing! Roxy ran to the dwarf's aid the moment he took the blow and healed his wounds. They were all working to shield me from injury. It was left up to me to check whether my flames had been effective or not. How was the wound on its neck? Would the carbonized stump regenerate? Okay! It hadn't. The wound was just as Paul had left it. The meat and flesh would knit back together as it had before. It's effective! I announced. Hell yeah! Paul whooped before cutting off the next one. I burned that one too. The heat from it was incredible, choking the air around me. Even Paul had sweat dripping down his brow. But if I didn't put the necessary firepower behind these attacks, I wouldn't be able to cauterize the wounds. If left half toasted, the creature would regenerate. As long as we kept up this pace. Ah! Cover me! I called out. My eye of foresight predicted the Hydra's movement. 2 of the heads that hadn't previously moved will come straight my way. I could evade the one, but the other head would predict that motion and aim accordingly. Leave it to me! Elena Lise called out. As I dodged the first, she flew in beside me. She knocked one head away while planting herself uncomfortably between me and the monster, shoving her shield out in front with a screech of grinding metal in order to protect me. A drop of blood splattered against my cheek. Roxy! I called. Healing! Let this divine power be a satisfying nourishment. Healing! She immediately leapt into action with her restoration magic. Then the 2 moved back to their original positions as if nothing had ever happened. Rudy, I'm going for a third! Paul hollered back at me. Got it! A pillar of red liquid sprayed through the air as another head came crashing before me. Burn! My job was to burn its flesh, to do nothing more than burn. Anything else, I could leave to the others. Right now, I just had to concentrate on what was before me. Paul cut, I burned. Elena Lise and Tallhand would make absolutely certain I was protected, and Roxy would heal them if she needed to. We burned the 4th head. We can do this! Suddenly, the Hydra's movements changed. The remaining 5 heads moved simultaneously, going after Tallhand. Ugh! Tallhand! He evaded the first one. Since he couldn't do the same for the second, he dropped to the ground and rolled, trying to escape it instead. As soon as he did, its scales clipped him and his heavy armor went flying, clattering as he tumbled across the ground. They didn't put the he in there. His butt was planted firmly on the ground by the time he blocked the third with his axe. As for the 4th, he couldn't even defend himself. It snapped at his feet. In seconds, Tallhand was suspended in midair. The 5th swooped in, jaws bared, threatening to snap his torso in 2 as he dangled helplessly. Then, a low boom resounded as a head hit the floor. The tragic, fleshy stump of a dwarf's neck was nowhere to be found. It was the Hydra's head that had been lost. Paul had sawed it off. Sorry about that. Thanks for the help, Tallhand said. I'll burn it now. Let this divine power be a satisfying nourishment. Healing! Tallhand's voice, then mine, and Roxy's respectively. All 3 of them could be heard simultaneously, all taking different actions. I burned 2 of its stumps at the same time. There were only 3 left. Huh? It was then that the Hydra's movements changed once more. The creature was beginning to stagger back, as if frightened by us. We can do this! I'm going to press the attack, Rudy! Paul leapt forward, but my legs were frozen. Wait, wasn't this a trap? I had a feeling we shouldn't attack when we had no idea what our enemy might be scheming. The ill premonition drifted towards my head within seconds, and in the next instant... What? It was one of the Hydra's heads. Unbelievable. It was chomping off the burned stumps of its own flesh. What the hell? And as we watched, meat and bone knitted back together. Shit! The cauterized wounds couldn't heal, but they would go right back to normal if the Hydra managed to chomp them back open. Don't give it a chance to regenerate! Yeah! Alina Lee let out a fierce cry and swept towards it. She closed the distance, then thrust her gladius at one of the heads that was beginning to heal. I lay before thee, a cradle of ice as thou desire. Now relinquish thy glacial currents. Ice smash! Alina Lee chanted, slamming her magic into the regrowing stump at point-blank range. The scales had yet to grow back, so the block of ice burst right through the soft meat. Handfuls of blood went splattering like pomegranates as the head, or what remained of the neck anyways, writhed in pain. Roxy! Let the smoldering flame burn bright with your blessing. Flamethrower! Roxy, who had been caught up to Alina Lisa at some point, unleashed a roaring blaze. While the scales were able to absorb the force of her spell to some degree, she still managed to sear the flesh, smoke hissing from the wound. We did it! Paul moved to pursue, but the Hydra didn't retreat. It lifted its enormous body, stretching its heads, all three of them just short of the ceiling, and glowered down at us. Was it really frightened? No, didn't seem like it. What was this? It felt familiar. Dangerous. Something's coming! Watch out! Paul warned. Yeah! My body moved on instinct. No, experience. I'd seen a dragon re-up like that before. Going back on its haunches, drawing in air. It's going to breathe something! Everyone, come over to me, please! Got it! Paul retreated a step, returning to where I was. Elena Lise and Tallhand came running, almost tumbling to the base of my feet. Roxy leapt towards me with her arms spread as if to grab on. I conjured a wall of water as thick as I could. At almost the same instant, the creature exhaled. Tremendous flames burst out of three of the Hydra's mouths, plummeting down towards us, crashing into my water barrier. Enormous plumes of steam rolled out, heating the whole room. Dragon breath was renowned for its fearsome heat. It could melt right through steel or evaporate a small bog in an instant. But just now, three of those heads had expelled that very breath. An ordinary magician alone couldn't have defended against it. If 5, no, 10 of them joined together to erect a water barrier, then no, not even that might not be enough. Fortunately, my mana wasn't ordinary. Father! Yeah! After the creature lowered its heads, Paul sprang forward. The Hydra's breath had limited usage. Whether it was creating it through some organ of its body or whether it had to store up mana, I had no idea. I just knew it couldn't fire it in rapid succession. This had to be its trump card. Something it could unleash with 3 heads at the same time, with downtime between. Perhaps it only had one head, or... Perhaps if only one head had fired, then one of the others might be able to use the same ability in succession. But it hadn't done that, most likely to avoid catching its other heads in the attack. Either way, this was our chance. Paul swept his blade down, ripping through another neck. I burned it instantly. Just 2 more to go. A thick neck and a slender one. Was the conspicuously chunky one its main head? If so, we should leave it for last. Father, go for the thinner one first. I know! Paul rushed forth. Lena Lise and Tyan would deal with the thicker one. Things were much easier now that there was only 2 of them left. His sword danced and the head came falling. My flames immediately seared its raw flesh. We can do this, I told myself. There was just one left. We won this. After coming this far, we wouldn't give it the chance to recover. Even if its final head were immortal, we could easily deal with it now that the others were gone. It was then, just as I was using my magic to cauterize the second-to-last stump, that the Hydra's body returned. Or it trembled. Sonic. He was the one who was
Don't mind
returning.
me.
I didn't know what that movement meant. I could see it with my eye of foresight, but I didn't understand it. The creature was too big. You moron! Wait! Before I realized what was happening... You moron! Wait! Before I realized what was happening, Paul had slammed me out of the way. Something enormous came crashing down right in front of my eyes. But it didn't have a head anymore? No, there was no head. But it did still have a neck. The Hydra was slinging its headless necks around like spiked whips. All 8 of them. Every one of them was coated in tough scales that could shred flesh like a cheese grater. It whipped those necks around all at once, mowing down anything in the vicinity. Rudy! Paul screamed, driving his foot into me to kick me out of the way. Almost simultaneously, a thud resounded as something smashed to the ground right where I'd been a moment ago, in the once empty space that existed between Paul and me. Whoa! Horns jutted from the creature's forehead. An eye glared at me. A panicked, concerned, or cornered eye. one trying desperately to survive, to cling to the tiny strand of life that remained, the Hydra's eye. Ugh! Moving on instincts, I plunged my left hand down into its eyes. I could hear a squish like a grape popping as fierce heat consumed my arm. The Hydra blinked in pain, or the Hydra blinked from the pain, its scale-covered eyelid coming crashing down like a guillotine. In the next instant, I launched my stone cannon. The top part of the Hydra's head was blown off as its eyelid clamped down. The force of the collision jerked my arm up in the air, a tear, and then a vicious snap, two sounds that penetrated so deep in my ears they seemed to claw their way into my brain. Roxy! I choked back as I screamed out her name, the name of my trusted master. Let this smoldering flame burn bright with her blessing! Flamethrower! Her voice, though faint, reached me. The final head fell, charred black from the fire. Then its enormous body began to collapse slowly. A boom thundered around us as it crumpled. I could feel the life gradually drain out of it. There would be no further regeneration. Its final head was not immortal. We beat it. We actually beat it. We won. We did it. Ugh. The second I realized it was over, sharp pain came shooting up from my left hand. When I looked down, I was shocked. My left hand was gone. The scale of the Hydra's eyelid had sliced right through skin and muscle, its ferociously strong muscles snapping my bones apart. Then, in the last moment, when it had raised its head, it ripped the whole thing off. Blood was spewing from my open artery. My hand. My left hand. In its eye, my hand. It was in the monster's eye, I realized. I glanced over at the head. The raw power of Roxy's fire magic had left it a clump of charcoal. The moment I saw that, I knew my left hand was gone. I could search for it, but I wouldn't find it. I would bleed out even if I tried. Or I would bleed out if I even tried. Crap. I need a healing. Fast. Angel of miracles, bestow thy holy breath unto my pulsing heart before thee. O heavens blessed with sunlight, servants who despise crimson, swoop down into the ocean of light, the pure white of thy wings spread wide, drive away the blood thou seest before thee, shine healing! I recited an advanced tier incantation. Advanced alone would not be able to restore what was lost, I knew that. I used it anyways. Pink flesh swelled over the amputated stump, ceasing the blood flow. Disappearing along with it were the scratch on my face and the bruise from where Paul had kicked me. My breathing was erratic. Calm down, I told myself. Calm down. My left hand was gone, but the Hydra had been an incredibly difficult foe. I'd gotten through it with all but my left hand. Put that way, perhaps it was a small price to pay. If Paul had managed to squeeze in there and save me, there was a high likelihood I would have died. You really saved me there, Father. I glanced over my shoulder, searching for him. There was no response. Everyone was quiet. Elena Elise just stood there. Tall Hand was silent. Roxy pursed her lips. Behind them, Geese was pale as a sheet. Paul gave no reply.
Happy Father's Day.
Father? Yep, there it is. They were all looking at something. So I followed their gaze to where Paul was, collapsed on the ground. Yes, collapsed. There, on his back. But he wasn't just collapsed. He was unconscious. His eyes were vacant. And his lower body was missing. Huh? My brain couldn't process it. What? Oh no. I knew what had happened. That's right. I'd seen it myself. Paul kicked me out of the way because the spot where I'd stood was exactly where the last head came slamming down. He had had to kick me as hard as he could to be able to move me. Wasn't a child anymore, so he had to. Thrust his lower body forward for the kick to have power behind it. Normally that kind of kick would send a person reeling back from the recoil, but Paul was a swordsman, a skilled one who could wrap themselves in battle aura, with physical strength. So when he kicked me, his body didn't move. That meant that the place where I was at, the place, I didn't want to understand it. But why? The moment I stringed out those words, Paul's eyes moved, landing on me. I met his gaze. Paul said nothing. His mouth just softened, as if relaxed, as if expelling a sigh of relief, and blood gurgled up past his lips. Then the light went out in his eyes. Paul was dead. Excuse me, I'm gonna get some water. Chapter 10, Parents. In the exact moment that the Hydra breathed its last, the magically imbued crystal I had been guarding liquefied and Zenith collapsed onto the ground. She was alive. Although still unconscious, there was no mistake that she was breathing. There were dozens of enormous magically imbued crystals in the area, and the ground was littered with the magic stones that comprised the creature's scales. Further within were a plethora of fallen magic items, too. They went at a fine price, but not one of us was in a mood to start collecting them. I felt light, unsteady, as if I were in a dream. If someone called out to me, I would reply, but my mind was otherwise empty. It was almost as if someone else was answering for me, using my mouth. Yet, much to my own surprise, I was able to make short work of the unfinished tasks that remained afterwards. We cremated Paul's body there in that room. My feelings about it were complicated. Part of me wanted to take him home, to at least let Zenith see his face even though he'd passed, but in the end, followed everyone's recommendation for his funeral. My fire magic was enough to reduce him to bones in a matter of minutes. When Alina Lee swore that burying him like that could result in him reanimating as a skeleton, I did as she proposed. I crushed the bones down, conjured a jar with my earth magic, and poured them inside. He had left only 3 personal belongings: the metal breastplate that had protected his torso, the magical sword that could deal massive damage to tough opponents, and finally, his favorite weapon that he'd kept at his side since before even I was born. It felt strange. I couldn't put my finger on what this emotion was, but it felt like a weight crushing down on my chest. Let's go home. I wasn't very useful on the way back. We beat our enemies and I was able to use my magic, but my feet were unsteady. It was as if I wasn't walking at all, but rather floating. Had it not been for Roxy, who was pressed close beside me, I might have stepped on a teleportation trap. No matter how many mistakes I made, no one said a word to me. Not Alina Lise, not Roxy, not Tallhand, not Keese. No complaints, no consolations. Everyone was at a loss for words. Zenith was carried the whole way on someone's back. There were some intense battles as we hiked up to the surface, but she never woke. Made me anxious. The fact that she was still breathing meant she was alive. At least that was what I tried to tell myself. It took us 3 days to make it out of the labyrinth. I couldn't really remember what the 3 who welcomed us back to the city said when we arrived, but Alina Lise and Geese explained the specifics to them. Shira collapsed in tears and Viera sank to her knees and with a look of shock. Even as I saw that, I couldn't say anything. Not a single word. Lilia was different. Her face was a mask, revealing nothing as she looked at me and squeezed her arms around me. Then she said, "It must have been difficult. You did well. Try to get some rest and leave everything else to me." Feeling utterly empty, I just nodded. I shed my robe as once we returned to the inn. There was a hole in the shoulder when I knew I needed a stitch closed. But for now, I just tossed it to the corner of the room, along with my staff and my equipment bag. I tossed it all into a pile, and then I collapsed onto my bed. That night, I had a dream. In it, I was back in my old body, back to being the slow-witted, self-demeaning shut-in. But this time, the man-god was nowhere to be found, nor was the white room in which he always resided. This was a memory from my previous life. Yes, a dream of what had once been. I wasn't exactly sure when it took place, but the scenery looked familiar. It was the living room of my parents' house. The 2 of them were there talking about me. I couldn't hear their voices, perhaps because it was only a dream. Yet strangely, I knew it was me they were talking about. Had they been worried about me back then? I left that world without ever discovering the reason for their deaths. Considering they'd both gone at the same time, I assumed illness, maybe an accident or perhaps suicide. I wondered what they thought of me just before they died. Did they consider me nothing more than a shameless shut-in? Were they vexed by how I turned out? Ashamed? I had no idea how they truly felt. My mother would still pop in to see me occasionally, but at some point my father had stopped saying anything to me. Did I even cross their mind when they died, I wondered? What about me? When they died, I didn't even go to their funeral. What was I doing? I didn't pick their bones from the ash after cremation, like a child should have done. What the hell was I doing? Why didn't I even go to the funeral? I've been scared of the way people would look at me when they saw I wasn't even trying to be sad, of the way they would look at a piece of shit like me, shut in, their hostility, their contempt. But that wasn't the whole story, of course. I wasn't an honorable human being. At the time, I didn't feel even an ounce of sadness that my parents had passed. I didn't love them enough to grieve their absence. I was less worried about losing them and more concerned by thoughts of, oh shit, now what am I going to do? I couldn't even look directly at my own future. I didn't mean to justify my behavior, of course, but I also couldn't help it. Imagine being backed into a corner, losing the last source of salvation you have, being suddenly plunged into a vast ocean before you'd even had a chance to fill your lungs with air. Anyone placed in that situation would look for a way to escape from reality. Sure, I regretted not doing more, but I could only blame myself so much. Still, if nothing else, shouldn't I have at least attended their funeral? I had no idea what I'd been thinking back then, but shouldn't I have at least looked at their faces after they passed? Shouldn't I have at least picked up their bones? How had Paul looked after he passed? Hadn't been satisfaction written on his face, but I did see the edges of his lips curl in a smile of relief. What was it he tried to say there at the end? What expression had my parents from my previous life worn on their faces when they passed? Why didn't I look back then? Wish I could go back now and see. I felt awful the next day when I awoke. An intense desire to do absolutely nothing weighed down my entire body. In order to escape from the feeling, I forced myself out of bed and moved to the neighboring room where Lilia and Zenith were. When she spotted me, Lilia stared in amazement. Lord Rudius, you've recovered already? Yeah, for the moment. I can't be the only one to take it easy, right? I'm certain no one would complain if you were to rest a bit more. Honestly, I did want to crawl back into bed as she suggested, but the sense that I had to do something, had to move, was even stronger. Please, let me stay here. All right, she said. I understand. Feel free to sit. In the end, I stayed there, and the two of us watched over Zenith together. She'd been sleeping for days by now. It had taken 3 days to leave the labyrinth, a day to get back to town, and even now she didn't wake. Her outward appearance suggested nothing unusual. She merely looked like she was sleeping. And though she'd been bedridden for days, there was no sign that she was losing weight. She looked perfectly healthy. I thought she might look a bit older, but that wasn't the case. Both her cheeks and hands were warm, and if you pressed your ear close to her lips, you could hear her breathing. It was just her eyes that wouldn't open. Maybe she would stay like this forever. Perhaps her body would deteriorate and she would die. That thought briefly passed through my mind. I didn't give voice to it. Unnecessary words were better left unsaid. Lily and I watched over her quietly. Occasionally, Vera and Shira would come by chatting about this or that. Whatever the conversation was, it didn't stay in my head. The two of us shared meals together, though I had little sense of even being hungry. I barely swallowed anything. I tried to wash what I could down with water, but the food stuck to my throat and made me gag. It wasn't until early afternoon that Zenith showed any signs of change. There, right in front of us, she let out a small groan and slowly lifted her eyes open. Those present were Lilia, Viera, and myself. Viera immediately burst out the room to go inform the others. Lilia and I remained, watching as Zenith tried to lift herself up. It should have been difficult after being bedridden for days, but with a bit of assistance from Lilia, Zenith was able to lift her upper body almost entirely on her own. Good morning, my lady. Lilia smiled as she greeted my mother. Zenith regarded her with the face of someone who hadn't completely shaken off sleep yet. Her voice. It was a voice I recognized. Thinking back, it was the same one I'd heard the first moment I was born in this world. A calming one. Relief washed over me. Paul had died, but at least the person he tried to rescue was now safe. Safe and alive. His hopes had been realized. I was sure she'd be sad when she learned of his death. She might even cry. Still, at least the three of us, Lilia included, could share that loss together. Mother. I didn't have to tell her about it right now. I could save that until things calmed down a bit more and she understood what was going on. We could take things slowly, one step at a time. It wouldn't be wise to force the harshness of reality on her all at once. First, we needed to rejoice that she was alive, and that we'd finally been reunited. We could be sad later. Huh? Xena tilted her head slightly. I stilled my heart. She had forgotten me. I couldn't blame her. The same had happened with Roxy. As the days and months turned into years, my face had changed. Might have been a bit of a shock to her now, but I was sure we'd both laugh about it in years to come. My lady, said Lilia, this is Lord Rudius. 10 years have passed since you saw him, or I saw him last. Zena stared at me vacantly. Then she looked back at Lilia, her eyes like a mirror, empty, reflecting only what they saw before them. She had tilted her head again, and Lilia's eyes went wide. Something was wrong. Strange. She wasn't speaking. All she did was groan. Plus the way she moved. It was as if she'd forgotten Lilia as well. It was one thing to forget me, but could she truly not recognize Lilia? The maid had aged, admittedly, but she hadn't changed that much. Her hair and even her clothes were the same as before. Her voice was clumsy. Her eyes were blank, and she could form no words. All she did was stare at us. My lady, could it be that? It seemed Lilia had realized, too. I knew what words lay unspoken, hanging at the end of her unfinished sentence, but my heart was quick to dismiss them. Both of us tried numerous times to talk to her. The conclusion came quickly. Zenith reacted to our voices, but produced no words of her own, nor did she show any signs of comprehending what we said. Lord Rudius, I'm afraid she's lost it all. Indeed, Zenith had lost everything. Her memory, her knowledge, her intelligence. All the necessary components that formed a person. She was a husk. There was no way she remembered Paul. She didn't even know Lilia or me. Who, what, when, how. She recalled none of it. That meant she couldn't even be sad he died. We couldn't share that loss. The reality of that stabbed like a knife. A gasp escaped my throat. My heart shattered. How many days passed after that? I had only a vague sense of time. I woke, slept, repeated the process countless times. When I slept, my dreams replayed the moment of Paul's death. I saw him slash at the Hydra, saw it swing its neck, felt him shove me aside, pushing me out of the way, then watched him move again, watched the Hydra move again. But I couldn't move. Paul kicked me out of the way, and I watched as the Hydra's head came plummeting down in front of me. Then I jolted awake, checked to make sure it was just a dream, and huddled back into bed. I didn't have the willpower to get up. All I could do was think about Paul. Paul was... He... Sure. Okay. He wasn't a praiseworthy human. He was terrible with women and a total show-off. He was weak in the face of adversity and looked to alcohol for an escape. Can't even bother to say anything fatherly before we went into battle. Most standards, he was a complete failure as a father. But still, I loved him. It wasn't quite the same as the parent and child love Paul felt for me. To me, Paul was more like a partner in crime, strictly speaking. I was mentally older, but he had more physical years on me. Even when it came to life experience, he was probably well ahead of me when you consider the decades I'd spent as a shut-in. None of that really mattered. Age was pointless. When I talked to Paul, I felt like the two of us were on even footing. I couldn't see him as a father. I probably never really thought of myself as his child. But Paul was different. He'd seen me as his child from the very beginning. Me, who'd been a piece of shit 30-something recluse on the inside at the time. Me, whose actions thus far had to have been bizarre from an outside perspective. Still, he regarded me as family, never turning his eyes away. There were areas where he failed as a father, but he never faltered in considering me as family. Never once did he treat me like a stranger. I was always his son. Despite my abnormal abilities, he still saw me as his son. He faced me head on. He was a father. He always had been. Even as he carried burdens far too heavy for him, he acted as a father. He continued to do things for the sake of our family. At the end, he even shielded me, used his body as a father to protect me, his son. He barely put his life on the line, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. And he died. It was strange. I wasn't even his child, but Paul still was my father. Paul had two real children, not fakes like me, actual honest-to-God real children, two sweet, genuine daughters, Norn and Aisha. If he were going to shield anyone, it should have been him, or it should have been them. Plus, he had two wives, right? He'd spent years desperately searching for one of them, Zenith. The other, Lilia, had been there to support him until then. Two wives and two daughters. 4 people in total. What the hell are you doing leaving them behind, huh, Paul? I thought angrily. Weren't they important to you? Maybe I was just as important to him, too. 2 wives, 2 daughters, and 1 son. Maybe they were all equally important to him. I'd never seen him as a father, but he thought of me as one of the most important people in his life. Fuck. Why, Paul? Or why, Paul? Give me a break. You said it so many times. Rudy, I see you as an adult now. I see you as a man. I got married, bought a house, took guardianship of my sisters. Of course I felt like an adult. I came to help you. I worked hard in that labyrinth. I saw myself as an adult. You did too, didn't you? That was why you said what you did at the end there, right? Save her, even if it kills you. So explain to me. Why? Why? Why did you shield me if I'm an adult? What am I supposed to say to Norn and Aisha when I go home? How am I supposed to explain what happened? What am I supposed to do when Zenith, the way she is now? What am I supposed to do from here on out? Tell me, Paul. You were supposed to decide this, weren't you? Damn it! Why did she have to go and die? Fuck! At least if I had died, it would be him here anguishing over what to do instead. Or better yet, if neither of us had died, no one would have to suffer. I can't do it. Sadness bubbled up within me. Couldn't stop the tears that came flooding out. My life, my previous one, that is. Didn't even cry when my mother and father had died. Haven't even felt sad. Now that Paul was dead, the tears came naturally. I was sad. I couldn't believe it. The one person who had to be here, was supposed to be here, is now gone. Paul was a father. Paul was my father. I never thought of him as one, and yet he was every bit apparent to me as the ones from my previous life. I thought and thought, cried and cried, until I was exhausted. I don't want to do anything. I lounged lazily about my room. There were things I needed to do. I knew, but I couldn't find the will to do them. I didn't even have the strength to leave this room. I slept, woke, sat up, adjusted my posture, and that time just slipped by. Elena Lise and Lilia came to visit in the midst of this. They said something to me, but I wasn't sure what. It was almost as if they were speaking a foreign language and my brain couldn't comprehend the words. Not that it mattered. I wouldn't have been able to reply even if I did. I had nothing to say, no words to speak to them. If, just maybe, if I had been able to wield the sword a little better, then I could have chopped off the Hydra's head. Maybe then, Paul wouldn't have died. The two of us could have worked on chopping while Roxy roasted the open wounds. Could have defeated it easily if we had done that, right? If only I could wrap a battle ore around myself. If only I could move a little faster, then Paul wouldn't have had to shield me. Could have dodged the attack all on my own. But I couldn't. That's why things had ended up this way. It wasn't like I hadn't tried. Maybe we should have gone back to the city, even if it meant I had to punch his face in and drag him back. We could have come back, had a calm strategy meeting, and then maybe we could have come up with a solid plan. A smart one, not the clumsy by the seat of your pants plan that we used. If we'd done anything just a bit differently, the outcome might have changed too. But it was too late. Paul was dead. I'd never see him again. Just like the parents of my previous life. No matter what I said now, it was already too late. Chapter 11, looking ahead.
Achievement!
Four
Unlocked.
people, men and women,
Die
gathered
virgin.
around a table at a certain pub. A certain darkness settled over them and amidst the clamor of the room. Paul's dead, muttered Alina Lise, the elf with lustrous blonde hair. Yeah, sure is, agreed Geese, the monkey-faced demon who was eyeing the contents of the cup in his hand. He protected his boy. That's how he'd have wanted it to go. Tall Hand, the stout dwarf with a beard, said plainly. His voice had little energy. He should have been drowning himself in his beloved alcohol by now, but he didn't look the least bit drunk. Don't think he'd be happy. Not with Zenith like that, Geese said. The dwarf just silently tipped his tankard back. It had been a shock to them all when Zenith turned out to be an empty husk. An especially cruel shock, considering they had all been known the cheerful, energetic person she had been before the accident. Even so, they were adventurers. Death was always close at hand. They would have had the capacity to accept it even if she died. She's alive, right? Who knows? Maybe she can be healed, said Tall Hand, though it was clear he didn't have much hope of that. There were stories occasionally of people who were crippled by a monster's poison. Never once in those stories had such people recovered. Once the mind was gone, nothing could heal them, not even god-tier healing magic. If something went wrong with someone's mind, there was no way to fix it. Even if she's able to somehow walk and talk again, her memories won't return, Elena Lise spat out. What's that? Sure are talking like you know a lot on the matter, Elena Lise. Tall Hand eyed her suspiciously. Just telling it like it is. Elena Lise didn't explain any further. She had lived a long life, longer than either Tall Hand or Geese. She said she'd seen a similar case before. It was likely she did know something, but whatever it wasn't going to give them any hope of Zenith recovering, so Tall Hand didn't press the issue. The real problem is the boy, said the dwarf. Yeah, agreed Geese, breathing the word out like a sigh. Rudius, Paul's son, had spent almost a week now cooped up in his room. It's not that the kid's under the weather, Geese continued. It goes deeper than that. It's almost like he's a husk too, said Alina Lise. Rudius didn't even reply when they tried to talk to him. He just nodded, a vacant look in his eyes, and said, Yeah. Rudy, excuse me. Rudy was very attached to Mr. Paul, said the young blue-haired demon girl. Roxy McGurdia had been relatively silent until the topic turned to Rudius. the back of her mind, she pictured a young Rudius taking sword lessons from Paul. No matter how Paul beat him into the ground, Rudius would stand back up again and continue swinging, an indignant look on his face. He'd been the embodiment of talent. To Roxy, it looked like he was truly enjoying learning swordsmanship from his father, a blinding source of envy to her, given that she'd never shared such moments with her own parents. Well, I understand how the boss feels, said Geese. It's going to be bad if things stay this way. I must agree, Elena Elise punctuated her words with a nod. Rudius hadn't eaten since the day had happened. Even when those around him prompted him to try, he just said, sure, but showed no signs of following through. He did seem to be doing the minimum, at least drinking water, but he was growing more gaunt by the day. His eyes were sunken and his cheeks had grown hollow. He looked like he had a shadow of death on his face. If left to his own devices, it wouldn't be surprising if he actually joined Paul. Everyone present thought as much. After a pause, Roxy pressed on. I'd like to do something to try and cheer him up. Geese's gaze traveled to Elena Elise. Didn't you always say it was important to get lucky at times like these? I can't help him with getting lucky, she replied instantly. Roxy was the only one who didn't understand what they were talking about. What is it that you can't do? Or what is it you can't do? Geese and Tallhand exchanged looks and pursed their lips. Roxy furrowed her brows, suspicious. Miss Elena Elise, do you have some kind of plan? A pause. No, I don't. The elf maintained her poker face. Well, how should I put it? Geese scratched at his cheek while Tallhand tilted his drink back in disinterest. Well, in times like these, it's best to just enjoy yourself to the fullest and try to forget. Enjoy yourself? Roxy echoed back, confused. Excuse me. Men are straightforward. Give them some alcohol, a woman to bed, and they'll get that rush of joy from being alive. Bring a little bit of energy back to them. I mean, yeah, it's not going to return them to how they were, but still. Oh, all right. I get it now. Roxy finally understood what he was saying, and more importantly, what he was trying to get Elena Elise to do. Well, I guess you're right. That's just how men are. Yeah. Her cheeks flushed red and her gaze floated to her lap. Men liked to bed women while they were depressed. Or when they were depressed. She felt sure she'd heard that story once before. It was true for mercenaries in particular who liked to pay for women's services before and after battle, in order to distract themselves from their own fear. After completing a mission where their life had been on the line, many men visited the brothels. But when Roxy thought of Rudius and Elena Elise together, a dark cloud hung over her heart. Elena Elise, Geese turned towards her. You've always said, for as long as I can remember, that you're good at consoling men of the wounded hearts. I have. Roxy began to think. It was true that Elena Elise had a talent for that type of thing. She had daily relationships or relations with an undeterminable number of men, and Roxy had heard she was incredibly skilled at what she did. Surely it was possible for a woman of that level of experience to get Rudius back on his feet again. The thought made her gloomy, but what else could they do? How unusual. Normally you'd be all over someone in the kind of state... Oh, sorry. How unusual. Normally you'd be all over someone in the kind of state boss is in right now. Roxy couldn't stand seeing Rudius the way he was right now. Elena Elise felt the same. She wanted to help him, to console him, but she also knew what would happen once they returned home if she succumbed and used his broken heart as an excuse to go to bed with him. She would be betraying Cliff, betraying Sylphie, or betraying Cliff, betraying Sylphie. Even Rudius wouldn't be able to cope with that. So Elena Elise said as much. Even I have people that I can't bed. Why not, Rudy? Roxy's lips hardened. She fixed the other woman with a glare. You know how much he's suffering. Because, Elena started to say, but then remembered. Roxy didn't know yet. Because the person he married, his wife, is my granddaughter. Huh? The cup dropped from Roxy's hand, its contents spilling everywhere before it rolled off the table and hit the floor with a dry clunk. What? Rudy's married? Yes, he is, and his child will be born soon. Oh! So it's true. Well, I mean, of course it is. Rudy's that age already. Roxy couldn't fully mask how shaken she was, and she bent down to retrieve the fallen tankard. She brought it to her lips without thinking before she remembered she'd spilled it all and ordered another. Huh. I'd like the strongest alcohol you have. Her eyes swiveled as she folded her arms over her chest. Marriage. That's right. Even Rudius could get married. Yeah, it was normal. At least that was what she tried to tell herself. Then Roxy remembered how she'd acted in the labyrinth, and she gritted her teeth. She made advances on him, thinking he was single. Rudius had been receptive on a level she had never experienced before. Perhaps the only reason he hadn't rejected her outright was because she was an acquaintance. From the sidelines, it must have looked hysterical. the most entertaining buffoonery. Roxy wanted to scream at them. Why didn't anyone tell me? But the complaint remained lodged in her throat. Anyway, her feelings weren't what mattered right now. Still, even if he is married, this is an emergency. Couldn't you both be forgiven for doing it just once? Roxy didn't even understand the words coming out of her mouth. She felt strongly that they had to do something to pick Rudius back up. Perhaps, but I can't be the one to do it, Alina Lee said woefully. Roxy couldn't understand the emotion in the elf's voice, or the frustration visible on her face. Sorry for the wait, a server cut in. Oh, thank you. Conveniently, her drink arrived. Roxy knocked it back and swallowed the whole thing down. It burned, passing down her parched throat and spreading through her body like wildfire. Probably tasted particularly delicious to her right now because her body was craving alcohol. Besides, Rudius and I have already... Alina Lee's paused just then, pursing her lips. Well, even though I can't help, Geese can drag him along to a brothel, right? Not so sure about that, said Geese, doubtful. You really think Rudius will cheer up having sex with some girl he doesn't know? Well, what he needs right now is to be able to lean on someone he trusts, said Alina Lees. So, Lilia? She shot a glare at Geese. This is exactly... Okay, I get it. He held his hands up in surrender. Don't get so pissy. Alina Lee's feelings about the matter were complicated. She didn't want to intrude on his marriage to Sylphie, but she did want to help Rudius. If she betted him, she could get him back on his feet. Alina Lee was confident about that. This wasn't the first or even second time she'd been in a situation like this, where she helped a man heal the wounds in his heart. But she also couldn't help but think that to do so now would be a disastrous choice she could never take back. She was conflicted. Normally, she didn't mind being the one to get her hands dirty. Alina Lee had played that role numerous times, but her desire to not betray Cliff got in the way this time. She simply couldn't. Silence hung in the air. Only the quiet sounds of people downing their drinks lingered. None among the motley crew dared speak up. There was as stale as a funeral. Anyway, we got Zenith in the state she's in now, too. I want to get the boss back on his feet quick as possible so we can hightail it out of this town. At Geese's words, three remaining sighed. Yeah, I don't disagree, said Paulhan gruffly. They were exhausted as well. After all, it had been 6 years. 6! Since the displacement incident. A substantial period of time by anyone's estimate, during which they traveled from the central continent to the demon continent, from the demon continent to the Beggaret continent, then began their venture into the teleportation labyrinth. It had been intense, frequently rough going, but they labored through it, both the good times and the bad, with the hope that they'd come out laughing together when it was over. The displacement incident had been an unpleasant affair, but the time they'd spent together hadn't been completely awful. Their broken, disconnected party had slowly come back together. Lynn and Lise and Tallhand had teamed up, while Geese hopped into action for Paul. Paul and Tallhand had reconciled their differences. Paul and Alina Lise had even fought side by side once more at the very end. None of them had ever dreamed they would come back together like this again. But then there they were, with Paul at their center. All they had to do was rescue Zenith and locate Ghislaine, wherever she had wandered off to. They could all share drinks together again. That's what they all thought. But now Paul was dead. It was enough to overwhelm them with an undescribable or indescribable sense of exhaustion, like everything they had done had been for naught. It was the kind of exhaustion you felt after you'd spent hours building something, only for it to fall to pieces at the very end. Rudius wasn't the only one overcome with lethargy. Don't be so glum, Tallhand said. Rudius is Paul's boy. Might be down in the dumps now, but he'll pick himself back up on his own eventually, no doubt. Elena Lise hesitated before saying, I certainly hope you're right. Both she and Geese nodded vaguely at the dwarf's words. They knew the boy's weakness, but he was already 16. He wasn't a child anymore. The situation might be grim, but he was a remarkable adult at heart. Death visited everyone. It was a particularly close companion to adventurers. Everyone's parents died eventually. Everyone had to deal with this at some point in their lives. That was why they assumed Rudius would also eventually be able to do the same. Only one among them did not nod their head. It was Roxy, her thoughts preoccupied with memories from long ago. Excuse me. Let me get some water. Rudius. I realized it was evening when I looked out the window. I was sitting on my bed, spacing out. How many days had gone by? Or how many days had gone by? Did it even matter? As I thought that to myself, a knock suddenly came upon the door. Rudy, can I have a moment? When I followed the sound of the voice, I glimpsed Roxy at the entrance. I left the door open this entire time. Teacher, I said after a long pause. It felt like ages since I'd spoken. My voice was hoarse, and I wasn't even sure whether she heard me or not. Roxy hastily made her way towards me. Something felt different than usual. Wondered what it was. Ah, that was it. She wasn't in a robe today. Her shirt and pants were separate pieces of thinly woven fabric. That was a rare sight. Pardon me, she said stiffly, plopping down on the bed beside me. Several seconds of silence passed. Roxy spoke slowly, as if carefully choosing her words. Want to go out somewhere with me for a bit of a change of pace? Huh? Uh, she stammered. There are many magical items in the city that you wouldn't be able to see on other continents. It might be interesting to take a look at them all, don't you think? No, I'm not in the mood. Oh, you're not? Sorry. She was inviting me to go out. I knew it was because she wanted me to, or what she wanted to cheer me up. Normally, I would have followed along behind her like a puppy, but I simply didn't feel like it right now. Silence stretched out between us. Roxy again seemed to choose her words as she spoke. It's unfortunate what happened with Mr. Paul and Miss Zenith. Unfortunate. Unfortunate. Was this really something that could be summed up in that one word? Well, this wasn't her family after all. I can still remember in great detail the 5 of us living together in Buena Village. It might have been the happiest time of my life. Roxy spoke quietly, gripping my hand. Hers was warm. As an adventurer, it's not unusual for the people close to you to die. I know that pain. I've experienced it before. Please don't lie to me, I said. I met Roxy's parents before. They were alive and well. She might not have seen him for a while, but surely that hadn't changed. Your mother and father are doing just fine, aren't they? That's true, she said thoughtfully. It's been a few years since I saw them, but they seemed well. I'm sure they still have 100 years ahead of them. You don't understand! A wave of emotion flooded up from my chest, and I batted her hand away. Don't throw that word around so casually! I felt the last bit of strength drain out of me as I yelled at her. Roxy, though taken aback, seemed to seriously weigh her next words. The person who died was someone who I formed a party with and taught me the basics right after I became an adventurer. I wouldn't go as far as to call him a parent, but I did think of him as an older brother. He died shielding me. Like you, I also anguished over his death. Of course, I don't think it's as bad as what happened to you. Losing your father and finding your mother only for her to be sick, but it did leave me deeply depressed. That's why I think I can understand a little bit, even if it's just a sliver, of what you're feeling right now. Then you don't understand at all. She didn't understand how I felt, having reincarnated, stuck between past and present. I wasn't just saddened by Paul's death, nor was I simply lamenting that Zenith had become a husk. I realized something. Ever since I was reincarnated and decided to do it all over, I had thought I was doing a good job, but in the end, I've just been ignoring something important. I turned my back on the discord between me and my family in my previous life, kept my eyes averted, even after I was reborn. And as a result, I made the same mistake a second time in this world. I've been unable to give anything back to my parents before Paul died and Zenith became a husk. I just done the same thing all over again. Repeated the same mistake. One I couldn't take back. My previous life of 34 years. My current life of 16 years. 50 years that I'd lived in total, and yet I'd done it again. My previous life had been hopeless. When I was reincarnated into this world, I thought I'd changed. Now, I was confronted with the reality that nothing had changed. Things might look good on the surface, but in truth, I'd hardly budged past square one. Getting back on my feet seemed hopeless, honestly. Knowing that Roxy had processed in a similar experience and managed to get back on hers did little to reassure me. I was truly happy during my days in Buena Village, she continued. I originally came to the Asura Kingdom wanting to work there, but I couldn't find any jobs. I decided to take a temporary position in the countryside as a home tutor. But then you were overflowing with talent, and Paul and Zenith treated me so warmly. I think they were the ones who really taught me what the kindness, true kindness, of a family is, Roxy said as she looked at me, her eyes soft, warm. They were like a second family. She stood up on my bed, slipped behind me, and knelt, wrapping her arms around wrapping her arms around my head as if cradling me. Rudy, I think I can share in your sadness. I felt something soft against the back of my head. Thump, thump, came the gentle pulse of her heart. A soothing sound. Why did listening to it comfort me so? I wondered. Why did it make me feel like things would be okay? The same went for her smell. Roxy's scent was relaxing too. Up until now, whenever I faced anything difficult, it's been strangely comforting to remember this smell and the things she taught me. When I'd been in the grips of my ED, just thinking about Roxy had been enough to help me endure. Why was that? The answer hung in the back of my throat but refused to come out. I'm your teacher, she said. Though I'm small and inadequate, I've lived longer than you, and I'm tough. I don't mind if you lean on me. I took hold of one of her hands. I took hold of one of the hands threaded around my neck. It was so small and yet felt so big. Just looking at her hands brought me comfort. I wondered if that sense of relief would grow stronger if I got closer. I'm sure that even when things are tough, you can lessen the burden by splitting it with someone else, Roxy said as she pulled away. I drew her hand back out of instinct. Well, her tiny body easily fell into my lap. Faces close, our eyes met. Roxy, looking sleepy, moist with tears. Her face was red, her lips drawn tightly shut. Put a hand on her back, guiding her close. Her heart was thundering furiously, and she felt warm. We can do it. Do what? I thought. I mean, I heard that a man's heart feels lighter after he takes a woman to bed. Who the heck told her that? Uh, Lena Lise? Just what was the elf telling Roxy at a time like this? Women feel the same. When things are tough, they want something to make them forget. I'm also devastated by Mr. Paul's death. So if that's what you want to do, I don't mind if you take me to bed with you. She spoke so fast that her words jumbled together, rambling on. That's right, I want you to help me forget, but my body is kind of plain. If you're not interested, you could go to a brothel instead. I had immense respect for her just as she was. Just as she was. What would it be like if I did as she just suggested and took her to bed? Anyway, I may not look it, but I am quite experienced. I'm sure I can perform much better than whatever girl you'd find on the streets. Just think of this as a casual thing, a way to wash away all the bad, as a way to test things out just once. Her incoherent explanations were lost on me, but I still found myself invested. I found listening to the beat of her heart to be this soothing. Then how much more relief might I find if our bodies were pressed together? My mind lingered on that excuse as she babbled. Well, if you're really particular and being with someone who is skilled, maybe you could bow your head to Miss Alina Lise and, I pushed her down onto the bed, roughly, violently. Maybe I had just had frustration to spare. When I opened my eyes the next morning, the first thing to greet me... Oh, sorry. There's a pause. Gives me time to drink water. When I opened my eyes the next morning, the first thing to greet me was Roxy's sleeping face. She looked so innocent with her hair down. At the same time, the thought, I screwed up, ran through my head. A sigh escaped. How was I going to explain this to Sylphie? Yet another thing for me to be concerned about now. But for some reason, my vision felt clearer, as if everything I'd languished over had been a dream. There was still a weight, a heaviness that clung to me, but it didn't feel like rock bottom anymore. It wasn't comparable to what I felt yesterday. Why had it been so effective? Was it because I'd performed an act that was associated with bringing new life into the world? Had that eased my sadness over the loss of Paul? Maybe not. By having sex, I'd more or less pushed the problem aside for now. Suddenly, Roxy's eyes fluttered open. She stared unblinkingly back at me for a few moments before rustling the covers, drawing them up over her body. Good morning, Pretty, she muttered, averting her eyes. How was it? I couldn't lie. I'd been horribly rough with her. I'd known almost immediately that her claim about being experienced had been nothing but a bald-faced lie, but I hadn't let that bother me. For her part, Roxy had welcomed everything openly, even the pain. I was both grateful and remorseful. Complimenting her felt wrong, given that I was in love with Sylphie, honestly speaking, but her body was a bit small and didn't quite fit mine. Of course, I'd be lying if I said it hadn't felt good. It was true even now that I felt relaxed. There was no reason to lie if it would hurt her. It was amazing, I said finally. Roxy's face heated gradually. Thank you, but no, that's not what I meant. How was it? I meant, how was your heart feeling? Any lighter? Oh, that's what she meant? Whoops. It does. Then, as repayment, I'd be happy if you'd put your arms around me. Sure. As she requested, I wrapped my arms around her. Her skin felt soft, damp because of the sweat. It was through her supple skin that I could feel her drumming pulse, a reassuring sound. Your arms sure are strong, she said, not much like a magician. I've been training. Her fingers traced lightly over my chest and upper arm. The motion was so endearing it threatened to sway my love for Sylphie. Slowly, I peeled myself away from her body and got up. Teacher, could I ask you something? Something strange. A pause and then, what is it? She must have read the room. Roxy's expression turned serious as she sat up in bed and tucked her legs beneath her. And as she sat there neatly, she was completely naked. It was so sexy and stimulating that I had to avert my eyes and shift the blanket to hide my lower half as I continued the conversation. This story is just fiction, something I made up, I prefaced before I began. Then I told her the tale of a man, a make-believe one, of course. When he was young, terrible things happened to him and he secluded himself. He lived purely on his parents' financial support for decades. Then one day his parents suddenly died. The man didn't even attend their funeral. No, he did the worst thing a person could possibly do. The other members of his family saw that, beat him senseless, and drove him from his home. Although the man had nothing, he was lucky to find himself reborn in a new world. He turned over a new leaf and began trying to mend his ways. Life was going smoothly and he thought he could be happy if things stayed that way. Then he made a terrible mistake and let someone precious to him die. It was then that the man recalled the death of his parents. Though it was late, he finally mourned their losses. Or that he finally mourned their loss. That was the story. The more I recounted it, the more the
When you
pent-up bile
get to the
festering in my heart
afterlife,
seemed to come spilling
Tell
out.
your God.
Maybe all I'd wanted was for someone to hear my story. Maybe it really was as simple as that. Roxy listened quietly. She inserted a word here and there, but for the most part she was silent. What do you think that man should do? I asked after I was finished. She remained quiet for a while. The story had come at her from nowhere. Maybe she was struggling to find a way to respond. I was sure she didn't think the person in the story was me. She was clever. She might have guessed there was some other meaning behind it. If it were me, she began, I would go visit my parents' graves. Even now, it's not too late. I'd also talk to the other family members. But the graves in those family members are so far away that the man can't just easily go and see them. If he does go to see them, he may never be able to return. The man has a life of his own now. He's got his own family in this new world, and he wants to cherish them. So he can't go back? No, I replied. There's a good chance that he couldn't go back even if he wanted to. Roxy fell silent again. This time was briefer than the last. In that case, there's nothing to be done. All he can do is cherish the family he has in front of him. Her words were incredibly cliche. Anyone would have said the same. Anyone would have thought the same. The words weren't special in the least. Even Paul would have wished for you to do the same, Rudy, said Roxy plainly, stating the obvious. Her words were trite platitudes, words I heard somewhere before. Please look to the future. Everyone is waiting for you. And yet hearing those words made my heart felt as though it was a weight, or made my heart feel as though a weight had been lifted. It wasn't just her words that were commonplace. The death of my parents from the previous world, even Paul's death, they were inevitable events. All I could do was face and accept them. I was here, after all, alive in this world that I would continue to live in. I felt anxious, knowing I would have to relay Paul's death and Xena's disability to the family waiting for us in the Northern Territories. I felt anxious about what I should do from here on out. I was overwhelmed with anxiety about a future full of unknowns, but I couldn't run away. The only thing I could do was solve the problems right in front of me. I had no idea what I should do, but all I could do was solve each issue, one after the other. This was what I decided to do ever since I found myself in this world, right? That I was going to live to the fullest, so I couldn't turn my eyes away, no matter what ordeals lay ahead. I would overcome them. I had to overcome them. Even though overcoming them wouldn't make the pain entirely disappear. It would just bring a degree of relief. I felt like I'd broken free of the chains that had weighed me down. Teacher, I said, Yes? Thank you. Roxy had saved me once again. No amount of gratitude could ever repay her for that. Chapter 12. Let's go home. I decided to consult with someone about Zenith. Now that I was thinking calmly about the situation, it wasn't a problem I could solve alone. I needed to get someone else's input. Besides, I had one other family member here with me. Excuse me. Teacher, I'm thinking about talking to Miss Lily about what to do from now on. I think that would be a good idea. Once we clothed and groomed ourselves, we popped out the door. Elena Lee slunk out of her room at the exact same time, and our eyes met. Hers went wide with surprise after her gaze flitted between Roxy and me. Roxy, you, she started to say. Rudy, I'm sorry, but I also have something I need to speak with Miss Elena Lee about. Please go on and see Miss Lily by yourself. What was it that she had to talk to Elena Lee about? I had a vague idea, but if it was what I was thinking, it was probably best I not be present. Understood. I left her behind and stalked back to one of the rooms further and the one where Zenith was sleeping. Just before I entered, I cast a brief glance behind me, long enough to see Alina Lise and Roxy dipping back into their shared room. I went ahead and slipped in through the door. Zenith was sitting on the bed with Lilia perched beside her in a chair. The sight reminded me of a hospital room, and my lips pressed into a tight line. Miss Lilia? Yes? What is it, Lord Rudius? Lilia was tending to Zenith, face heavy with exhaustion. Before I did anything else, I needed to consult her. I'm sorry for forcing my mother's care on you, I said. Not at all. This is my job. Oh, okay. A job. Could she really call it that? Wasn't like anyone was paying for her for it. How's she doing? I glanced over at my mother, who just stared right back. She didn't try to talk to me or examine me. All she did was stare blankly. Well, while it doesn't seem like she has any memories, her body is strangely healthy. She has some stamina, too. There doesn't seem to be any other residual impairment. She can complete certain tasks by herself once I instruct her to, such as eating and changing. Really? That meant she wasn't a complete invalid then. She just lost her memory. Lilia continued. Shira's opinion is that it's likely a side effect of the mana from being trapped in that crystal. Will she recover? She hesitated. According to what Miss Selena Elise told me, there's no hope of that. Lena Elise said that? Was she knowledgeable about this kind of thing? I felt like it was a bit too soon to give up either way. There weren't even any decent doctors here worth taking her to. The mistress treated me well, now that the master has passed away. I will look after her. I also want to do what I can. As soon as I said that, Lilia said curtly, That's not necessary. Her words were cold, isolating. Huh? I gasped in surprise, though I felt I had no right to argue. Right after my father died, when my mother needed care the most, I'd done nothing for her. It was my own fault that Lilia was fed up with me. But then Lilia continued. I realize I'm being impertinent, but will you allow me to speak frankly for a moment? Yes, what is it? You should be focusing on yourself. I hesitated. On myself? I'm sure that's what the master would say, she added. I couldn't bring myself to agree. He was, well, more selfish than that. I'm the one who should be looking after the mistress. Or, sorry. I'm the one who should be looking after the mistress. That's why I'm here. Lilia was exhausted. She had to be, and yet she was so strong. She'd already made her peace with Paul's death and was moving forward. I needed to learn from her example. Miss Lilia, you might be upset if I ask this. I won't be, she interrupted. But what is it that I should do? I knew it was something I should figure out for myself, but still I asked. Lilia looked at me with surprise. I'm pretty sure I pretty much knew the answer myself, but I wanted to hear someone say it. First, you should return to Mistress Norn and the others and inform them of the Master's death. True. I had to go home. The next day, I gathered everyone and informed them that we were leaving the city. It was almost like I was taking on the leader's mantle. Everyone followed. Perhaps they saw me as Paul's replacement. That was true. I needed to be worthy of the role. Just to be on the safe side, I went ahead and explained to them the route that we would be taking. I avoided mention of the teleportation circles, merely telling them that we were using a technique method to return, or a unique method to return. I also gave a strict warning against mentioning this method to anyone else. But Geese is the type to down a few drinks and spill the beans, Elena Lee said. Well, I'll be sure not to mention Boss's name even if that happens, so don't worry. You couldn't seal people's mouths shut. I wouldn't give them a precise location. In fact, I prefer to blindfold them before we even enter the ruins if possible. Wait, yeah, that was a good idea. I do blindfolds. Maybe covering their eyes so they couldn't see the magic circles themselves would be an effective way to keeping the information from spreading. This trip is all well and good, but boss, you really okay now? Apparently, Geese was concerned. His monkey face was furrowed as he peered over at me. Do I look all right? His lips twitched. You don't really know, but, well, you do look better than you did before. Well then, I'm okay now.
Just
To be
one
honest,
level?
No, not right now, but I'm sorry. Where did I put that thing? Oh, is it? Where did I put that?
Sonic mute.
where did you put that
Dang
thing,
it.
Sonic? Excuse me.
Yeah, where did I put that thing? Put it over here?
I don't know, man.
Here we go. There it is.
Oh. Oh. Okay. To be honest, I wasn't okay yet at all. Thanks to Roxy, I'd managed to pick myself off the ground, at least, but I had my doubts about whether we could really make the trek back home. I turned to Lilia. How's my mother? We'll be traveling through a desert for half a month. Do you think she can handle it? I'm not sure, but I'll take responsibility for caring for her along the way. I appreciate it. Lilia looked earnest as she declared her intentions. I was sure I'd be able to help her with her task, too. If there was an issue with Zenith's stamina, we could just slow our pace. He said, If you're worried, let's buy a wagon. You do realize we'll have to dump it out at some point? Elena Elise pointed out. Who cares? We're drowning in cash right now. I was steep in sorrow. Geese and the others had hired some people to enter the labyrinth with them and collect the magic items located in the treasure chamber beyond the Hydra's room. Teleportation Labyrinth was an old place, and countless adventurers had lost their lives there, so magic items abounded. They also stripped the creature of its scales, or rather, the magic stones that had been plastered across its skin. These were stones that could absorb mana. Selling all of that had netted us a colossal fortune. We're carrying what we can back to Asura We're carrying what we can back to Asura to sell, he said, showing me a bag bursting at the seams with magic stones and accessories like pendants and rings. Paul had died, and I was grieving, but Geese was preoccupied about how to make more cash. The thought alone irritated me for a bit, but for the sake of our futures, if nothing else, it would be foolish not to retrieve what we could. Money was essential, and at least this way, everyone was repaid for their assistance. Geese's judgment was correct. Besides, considering I'd sunk into depression and done nothing, it wasn't like I had the high ground to say anything. I was sure Geese would have obeyed, albeit reluctantly, if I'd given the order for us to go home the very next day. I gave your portion to Lilia, he informed me. The others had met and decided how to divvy up the cash without me. They allotted me a massive portion, partly because I'd received Paul's share too, but also because Tallhand had split half of his with me, saying, it wasn't all that helpful this time. So here. Vera and Shiera, also acknowledging how hard it would be for us now that Paul was gone, had each split theirs with Lilia. Lilia intended to give every bit of that money to me. In my opinion, everyone had done the best they could, so I felt like they should take their share, but, well, I wasn't going to look a gift horse in the mouth. It was true that things would undoubtedly get harder from here on out. We also did a thorough sweep of the final area, but never did find any hint as to why Zenith ended up there. Geese shrugged. Nothing, huh? Well, thank you for looking, I said. Nah, it was nothing. We had no idea what had caused Zenith to be trapped in that crystal. Even if we did discover the reason, there was no guarantee it would lead to her recovery. Either way, treatment would have to wait until we return home. Geese, could I entrust the preparations for our departure to you and Miss Alina Lise? Yep, said Geese. Very well, said Alina Lise. I was sure I could trust them to carry it out. We planned our trip down to the minute details. I knew the route, and everyone here was an experienced traveler, but I didn't want us to lose anyone else, so I proceeded cautiously. We plotted out a route that would allow us to avoid the bandits we'd encountered on the way here. The path was a bit of a detour, and that wouldn't be a problem. I was concerned about Zenith, but that problem was quickly solved. Geese purchased a one-person carriage pulled by a beast that resembled an armadillo. It looked like it had been designed specifically for desert travel. Geese had done well. The armadillo was apparently a domesticated beast that had dwelled in the eastern reaches of the Begaric continent. It seemed both costly and wasteful to purchase one and then just dispose of it later, but as the saying goes, you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. Still, if we were going this far, we might as well bring the beast through the teleportation circle and take it home with us. As long as we could get it past the stairs, it would be fine. Though if it died due to climate differences when we arrived on the other side, nah, it would die for sure if we left it in the desert. Might as well take it back and sell it to someone with an affinity for such animals. Thus, our preparations were complete and we set off. The trip proceeded smoothly. We slid easily past the bandits. We happened upon some monsters along the way, but with our numbers, they posed no danger. We had 2 warriors, 2 magicians, 1 warrior mage, and 1 healer. There was a distinct difference in power between each person, but we were well balanced. Although we were missing 1 swordsman who should have been making this journey with us. Traveling without a left hand proved to be more inconvenient than I imagined. It didn't hurt, but I would often try using it without thinking, only for my arm to swipe empty air. A lot of things proved difficult without 2 hands. Fortunately, Roxy was there to assist each time. Ever since that night, she'd been glued to me, supporting me. She made a habit of walking to my left, then whenever anything happened, she was right there to assist, almost like a lover. I was dense. I told myself I wouldn't be, but I was. But even I couldn't help but realize it at this point. Roxy had feelings for me. Teacher, I called out to her one night when we were both on guard duty. There was a crackling fire before us, and she sat beside me. Everyone else was inside the shelter sleeping. The shelter was sturdy enough, but we still maintained a 2-person watch in shifts just to be safe. Yes? What is it, Rudy? Roxy was sitting close, right beside me, in fact, with her body pressed against mine. I could feel the softness and the warmth of her small shoulders through the fabric of her robe, almost like we were lovers. I mean, we had done something that lovers do. The night I'd spent with her, leaning on her, indulging in her kindness, might have lent itself to the misunderstanding that we were lovers. Or at least that might be what she wanted. I wondered if she knew I was married. Perhaps she didn't. I didn't feel like she'd be this bold about her affections if she knew. No, the problem wasn't Roxy. It was me. What I was doing right now was cheating. I swore fidelity to Sylphie, and yet here I was breaking that vow. Maybe it would be best for me to make things clear to her. Like, thank you, but I'm fine now. Let's end things here because it would only be disrespectful to my wife otherwise. Ever since I met Roxy after first coming into this world, I'd relied upon her greatly. She taught me magic and language. In a way, I'd only been able to befriend Zenoba because of her. Sylvie was the only one who cured my erectile dysfunction, but in the 3 years since, Roxy had been a source of mental support for me. I owed her so much. Plus, she'd gone so far as to use her body to comfort me this time. Even though it was her first time, she offered herself up to help me, to pull me out of the darkness I'd sunk into. When I was at my weakest, on my knees, she extended her hand to me. Even now, she was keeping her true feelings to herself to lend me aid. So, how would it feel, to cast her aside once everything was over? Wasn't that horribly disrespectful? No, enough. No more self-appeasement. Talking about manners or how she saved me. They were all excuses. I loved Roxy. That's right. I loved her. If you asked me which I loved more between her and Sylphie, I couldn't give you my answer. My love for each of them was different, but equal. That's why I was wavering right here, in this moment. A moment where I loved Sylphie, but loved Roxy too. But it was Sylphie to whom I'd sworn my fealty or fidelity. While I had broken that oath, a promise was still a promise, even if it was one that had been broken once before. Yeah, okay, Sylphie had said, I don't mind if you bring a second woman home. But I was the one who dismissed those words, swearing I would only be with her. Sylphie had been so happy when I said that, beyond a shadow of a doubt. I couldn't betray her. You see, the truth is, I'm actually married and will be having a child soon. So, I feel bad saying this, but could you stop doing things for me like you're my lover? Her shoulder gave a jolt. Then she muttered, I already knew you were married. I heard it from Miss Selena Lease. Oh, you did? So she knew and she was still acting like this. And that must mean... Wait, what exactly did that mean? It's fine, I understand. There's nothing for you to be concerned about. I was the one who took advantage of you when you were feeling weak, she continued. Her tone was completely flat. Besides, I know under ordinary circumstances, you'd never get involved with someone as tiny and unappealing as me. Tiny and unappealing? That's nonsense, I protested. You don't have to comfort me. I'm perfectly aware of how I look. True, her body might be petite. She had no curves and she was thin as a stick. In the feminine department, she would likely even lose to Sylphie. But you might also say she simply had the body of a lolly and I was the type who could appreciate that. Sorry. Don't worry, I don't plan to barge into your life. I'm just going to be your left hand for the length of this trip. Just ignore me once it's all over and look after your wife instead, Roxy said, hesitantly peering up at me. All right. But still, she really had saved me. Doing nothing in return couldn't be right. Would you allow me to repay you at the very least? Repay me, you say? Roxy looked surprised. Yes, if there's something I can do, just name it. Anything. Her eyes wavered. Ah, crap. Maybe I'd said the wrong thing. Anything wasn't fine. Anything was exactly what she'd done to help me out. Um, well then, she started. Yes? Then, would you hear my excuse? All you'd have to do is listen. An excuse. An excuse for what? Sure, all right, I said. Go ahead. Roxy was quiet for a short period after that, but then finally, the words came trickling out, one after the other. I fell in love at first sight. With who? Huh? Roxy was just as confused at my question. Don't tell me you fell in love with my father. No, not at all. With you, Rudy. When you saved me back in that labyrinth. When we reunited. Back then, she treated me like such a complete stranger that I couldn't even keep a lid on my nausea. I hugged her out of nowhere and then barfed. I didn't see anything worth falling for there. I figured her feelings had developed after that. You can hardly blame me, she said. I was on death's door, about to abandon all hope, and this handsome, dashing young man appeared and saved me. Anyone would have been shaken by that. I'm handsome? Roxy nodded. The very picture of my ideal partner. Really? Her ideal partner? Had to keep myself from grinning. The entire time we were exploring that labyrinth, I was staring at your face, she said. Come to think of it, our eyes did meet a lot, but you always turned away immediately. Oh, sorry. Come to think of it, our eyes did meet a lot, but you always turned away immediately. That's because, well, Roxy hesitated. Come on, it's embarrassing looking someone as handsome as you are right in the eye. So she'd been embarrassed? I figured it was impossible, she said. Miss Elise and the others were talking at the pub. What's Rudy going to do after what happened with Paul? That kind of thing. Miss Elise and Mr. Geese said you'd be fine, or that you'd stand back up on your own. I recalled our time together in Buena Village. Her words kept coming. I remembered watching you and Mr. Paul enjoy your sword training together. The two of you got along so well back then, and then I suddenly remembered something else. The first time you rode a horse. Back then you were so terrified, your body was so tense, and you couldn't move at all. I thought to myself, this kid is so mature and he has so much talent, but he's actually really weak. Then I remembered all your interactions with Paul. When you trained together in the past from when you trained together in the past to your banter in the labyrinth, and I saw how depressed you were, how listless, and I remembered that you're much weaker than you appear. It felt like Paul meant more to you than anyone had realized. Now that you lost him, I was afraid you might sink so far into depression that you couldn't get back up on your own. Of, of course, I didn't think I'd be the one to help get back up. I heard you had someone you loved. I was sure that person would have the power to put you back together again if you felt broken. But you needed them more than ever before right then, and they here. I felt like someone had to save you. But Elena Lise and Mr. Geese just planned to leave you be, and Miss Lilia was too busy attending to Miss Zenith, so I thought, I'm the only one who can do this. I'm sure that must sound like an excuse, but I didn't intend for it to go that far at first. I did get the feeling that you respected me, but I'm tiny and unattractive. I have no idea who your partner is, but I'm sure she must be a beauty if she's related to Miss Elena Lise. I never thought there'd be a chance you'd look at me the same way, but I ignored that, thinking it would be fine as long as I did something that could help. But when you suddenly grabbed me and I saw your face up close, I couldn't help thinking, maybe I have a chance. Miss Elena Lise and the others had just talked about how sex could cheer men up when they were down, so I just thought, maybe even I can do this. I couldn't help it. I love you. Roxy's tears started falling one after the other. The moment I saw them, pain shot through my chest like my heart was being gouged out. It was cruel, she choked out. My feelings for you were obvious, but no one told me about you being married until way after the fact. It wasn't fair. I wondered at whom those words were directed. Not me, I thought. So perhaps Elena Lise? It was true that I hadn't told her about my marriage, though. There was no special reason for that. It just hadn't come up. If she was going to blame anyone, I was equally accountable. Still, if our roles were reversed, if I'd reunited with Sylphie, she'd save me, and I'd fallen in love with her, then proceeded to make romantic overtures only to discover she already had another partner, well, I'd surely be shocked. No, there was no doubt about it. I definitely would be. Um, Teacher, I wanted Roxy to be rewarded for what she'd done. She should be rewarded. What is it? She asked. But what was I supposed to do? What could I do to repay her? How could I bring her fulfillment without betraying Sylphie? Um, at the very least, why don't we grant your wish while we're making this trip? I'll be your lover until I make it back home. And then, and then what? That wouldn't have solved anything. I knew that much. This wouldn't have helped, or wouldn't help either of us. I would just be betraying Sylphie. It would only be temporary, and it was the worst possible proposal I could have come up with. A long pause, and then, that's an incredibly appealing idea. Roxy squeezed my arm tight, and lightly she tapped her hand against my cheek, or against my cheek. But please stop with all that. You don't have to do anything. All right. I didn't have to do anything. If Roxy was fine with that, then I would do as she asked. I'd done everything she told me to until now, and I would continue to do so. That's what you would want. Or that's what you want. Right, teacher? Oh, excuse me. Need a little water. Ugh. We'd arrived at Bazaar in a little over a month. Once there, we bought some souvenirs such as glasswork for Sylphie and the others. One such piece was a glass bottle with an interesting shape, and a red glass hair accessory with a tribal crest on it. I prayed they wouldn't break on the journey home. After that, we bought some rice, seed rice, that is. I wasn't confident it would grow well back home, but I wanted to try. If that failed, I could always eat it as is. That evening, Alina Elise took the women of the group to go drinking. One of those girls-only parties, I guess. Not that any of them were young enough to be considered girls anymore. Lilia was the only one who refused on account of having to look after Zenith. The rest, Roxy included, tagged along with Alina Elise. Geese and Tallhand didn't participate, of course, but they did come up with their own excuses to go out. I stayed to help Lilia and look after Zenith. But my mother could walk, eat, and go to the bathroom, but she wouldn't talk or proactively do anything herself. She was almost like a machine, carrying out the commands she was given. Occasionally she would stare in my direction, wouldn't say a word, just stare. Maybe she felt some connection to me because we were related by blood. The chances of something triggering her memory to return were, well, slim to none. I wondered what Paul would do if he were here. Truly, I wondered. Surely he would do a good job, or maybe he wouldn't. Maybe he would fail. In the middle of the night, Roxy came to see me, absolutely hammered. Apparently, she'd told Alina Elise everything, letting all her pent-up resentment spill forth. For her part, Alina Elise had to feel conflicted. She said that Roxy was her dearest friend. She had wanted to support Roxy's love life, but not at the expense of her granddaughter's marriage. I imagine that put her in a difficult spot. Roxy beat her tiny fists against my chest, then returned to her sleeping quarters. The next day, we arrived at the Griffin's Ledge. Normally, a carriage couldn't make the climb, but I used my magic to force it up onto the ledge. On the first day, the armadillo cowered at the scent of the griffins and stopped in its tracks. I wonder if we would have to double back and leave it in the bazaar. But once we defeated the offending monster and its geese wolfed down the enemy's meat right in front of it, the armadillo seemed to sense it was safe, proceeded to merrily plod along. According to Geese, this was a trick he learned from one of his demon friends. By defeating and eating a monster's natural predator right in front of it, he instilled the idea in its head that your own group was superior in strength to that of the predator. When I asked if the man who'd taught him this had a lizard-like face, Geese just laughed and said, "You know him? Should have figured you would, boss." It took a whole day of travel across the ledge before we arrived at the desert. From there, it was further 3 days to pierce through the sandstorm. When I used my magic interrupted, Roxy said, her voice tinged with jealousy, "So your earth magic is saint level too. Amazing." There was an abundance of monsters after that, so we proceeded with extreme caution, even though we had plenty of people along this time, including several veterans. Even if one or two of us were in a pinch, someone else could immediately dive in to help. We even crushed the sand Garuda, which we'd avoided engaging with on the way in. After that came a giant lizard resembling a T-Rex, which we similarly defeated. I feared the sandworms along the way might pose a real threat, but Geese was able to sniff them all out. Apparently there was a trick to it. According to him, there was a thin donut-shaped ridge in the ground where they were located. As long as you carefully scanned the terrain for that ridge, you could identify their hiding spots at once. That said, the desert wasn't exactly flat. There were plenty of occasions where I failed to correctly identify the ridges, partly due to my lack of experience. Succubi attacked us too, but we dispensed with them easily since our party was comprised mostly of women. East and I were both done in by their pheromones, but at least we had detoxification magic to counter it. My true feelings did slip forth at one point, making me try to go after Roxy, but it was otherwise uneventful. What shocked me the most was that Tallhand was entirely unaffected by them. He snorted and said, "Of course it doesn't work on me." Guess a sound body leads to a sound mind after all. Incredible. We arrived at the ruins, just as we'd planned. Everyone besides Alina Lise was blindfolded outside. Shira fussed a bit about it, but Vieira persuaded her and we were able to proceed without issue. The blindfolds themselves were for a little more than peace of mind, but as long as they didn't see the circles, they wouldn't know what had happened. As for the wagon, we left it behind. It couldn't make it past the entrance. Surely Zenith could make the next week on foot. Now that we'd made it this far, I didn't even mind if the last leg of our journey took us a little longer. The armadillo was able to make it through the entrance, so we brought it along with us. I had no idea the climate back home would agree with it, but it had to be better than leaving it here for other monsters to feast on. Geese and the others were surprised once they removed their blindfolds and discovered the scenery around them had changed completely. We went from being surrounded by a desert to being smack dab in the middle of a forest. Their shock was understandable. I warned them strictly to never talk about how we arrived here, even if they managed to guess how we'd done it. That was how we left the Beggaret continent. Just a little bit further and I would be home. Chapter 13, Return. Snow was falling lightly in the northern territories. They'd been approximately 4 months since I first set out. Autumn and the beastman's mating season had long since passed, leading into a long winter season. There was snow up to my ankles, even in the middle of the forest. If we'd gotten here even a month later, the snow would have been all the way up to my chest, making it difficult to travel the rest of the way to Sharia. Miss Alina Lise and I will lead the way, I said. If any monsters popped up, we would defeat them all. Mana wasn't a problem. Zenith was walking without any complaints of exhaustion. The armadillo was shivering, but it'd be fine as long as I warmed it with my magic occasionally. Everything's fine, I thought to myself as we went. One evening, Alina Lise and I were on lookout together. Rudius, there's something I want to talk to you about, she blurted out suddenly. I could already vaguely sense what the contents of that conversation would be. Roxy, no doubt. I sat directly in front of her, legs folded beneath me, the perfect posture to prostrate myself before her as she started condemning me. Alina Lise took a more comfortable seat on the ground. Excuse me. I wondered how she'd express her anger. Would she lash out at me for disrespecting Sophie? Or would she scold me for sleeping with Roxy? She didn't either. Rudius, you're not a follower of Millis, are you? Huh? I didn't understand what she meant, but I did know that there was only one person I could call God. That hadn't changed since I was little. I'm not, I said finally. I didn't think so. Sophie isn't either, is she? No, she shouldn't be. Sophie wasn't religious. In fact, the only devout Millis follower I knew was Cliff. Had an amulet of the church dangling from his neck, and once a week he attended something akin to mass at the church. Sophie wore no such symbols of Millis, and she didn't go to church. Maybe Cliff was a poor comparison. It was possible she did have faith, but I never heard her say much, if so. My Cliff is a stout believer, she said. He sure is, I agreed immediately, having just thought of him as well. Did you know the Millis faith rules that a man can only have one single wife? So it seems. Alina Lise continued. It's an old-fashioned kind of edict, saying a man must love his wife for the rest of his life. Still, it feels pretty good to be on the receiving end of such affection. That sounded about right. I had no doubt it felt good to love someone with the whole of your being and be loved just the same in return. My wavering, cheating heart, on the other hand, had wandered to Roxy. I did love her. There was no doubt about that. But I also remembered how miserable I'd been when I had ED. Sophie had been the one who cured me and brought happiness back into my life, and so I wanted to repay her with love that would fulfill her in return. Those feelings were just as strong. However, Rudius, Alina Lise started. Yes? I'm different. I don't think loving multiple partners at the same time is wrong. I'm not surprised to hear you feel that way, but isn't that insincere? I asked. Alina Lise merely shook her head. If you threw Sophie aside, that would be one thing, but as long as you love her like you should, it's not insincere. If you have two people to love, that means the time you can afford to give each of them will be halved, right? It's not like you're with each other all day long, right? It won't be halved. It might be a little less than it was before, but that's it. So taking a second partner wouldn't be a problem even if the affection I gave my first partner was reduced because of it? Humans could be oblivious to emotional upticks, but rather sensitive to even minute reductions. It would be terrible if Sophie began to think my love for her was dwindling. Try to think back. After Paul married Lilia, was Zenith unhappy? Happy or unhappy, I felt like that wasn't really the issue here. Though now that she mentioned it, it was true that Zenith hadn't been particularly unhappy. Things had been the same as before. In fact, she'd grown even closer to Lilia than before, and had looked all the happier for it. Paul might have been unhappy, given he was suddenly on the receiving end of both his wife's attacks, but perhaps that was kind of happiness in and of itself, one that would never return. What is it exactly you want to say? I asked, remembering Paul had brought the grief bubbling back up. It might only worsen if we continue to talk about him. I just wanted to hear what Elise's point was. Take Roxy as your wife. You love her, don't you? I froze. Are you being serious right now? Of course I am. Or, yes, of course I am. Miss Helena Lease, is that really okay for you to say? You are Sylphie's grandmother. Shouldn't you be looking out for her happiness? Not that I had any right to blame her. I was the one who had an affair, the one who broken my oath to Sylphie and slept with Roxy. That fact remained unchanged, regardless of the circumstances, and yet I found myself taking an accusatory note or tone. Yes, I can say it. No one else could say this but me, she said haughtily as she looked up at me. I realize I shouldn't say it like this, but before I was Sophie's grandmother, I was Roxy's close friend. For a moment, I didn't understand what she meant. Then I realized she was talking about the order in which they met. Elena Lise had met Roxy first, then encountered Sophie later on. Honestly, I can't stand to look at Roxy the way she is in right now. She yearns to throw herself into the relationship and lean on you, but is forcing herself to hang back just because she happened to meet you too late. I felt bad for Roxy when she put it like that, but I also felt bad for Sophie when I looked at it from her perspective. If you part on bad terms, I have no doubt she'll lead a miserable life. It's possible some dirtbag will take advantage of her, treat her terribly, and then sell her off as collateral for his unpaid loans, causing her to end up bearing the child of a man she doesn't even know. Isn't that going a bit too far? I asked uncomfortably. I know of a woman who led such a life. She spoke so frankly, I found myself wondering for a moment if she was speaking of her own personal experience. Elena Lise continued. I want Roxy to be happy, even if that happiness comes with conditions. I mean, I want the same thing. Rudius, I know you can do it. You can love Sophie and Roxy just the same. You're Paul's son, after all. You should be able to do that. Could I really? Perhaps. No, definitely. I did love them both equally. I did, and I could. But was that really okay? Was it okay to say as much? To be that self-serving? No, these were just whisperings of the devil. I couldn't listen to them. No, Sophie is my only. I didn't plan on saying this, Elena Elise cut in, raising her voice. Her tone grew hushed again as she continued. But when we drank together in Bazaar, Roxy told me that her monthly visitor still hadn't come. Huh? Monthly visitor? Oh, wait. I knew what that was. But that mean. Well, it's not for certain yet, she added. We'd done the deed. It was possible. Plus, the night they got in trunk, she had come and beaten on my chest, albeit weakly. Maybe that had been a sign? Elena Lise peered in my face and said, Rudius, if Roxy really is pregnant with your child, what will you do? Her question conjured an image in my head of Paul back in the day, back when Lilia was pregnant with his child. He looked so pitiful. I was the one who had saved him back then, when he'd been helpless. Now I thought he was a man deserving respect, but that didn't mean I wanted to make the same mistakes he had. I'll do what must be done. Which is? She prompted. I'll marry her. Marry. The moment the word left my mouth, it felt like my heart had dropped in my stomach. I loved Sophie, but I also wanted to marry Roxy and have her be part of my family. I didn't want anyone else to take her. I wanted to make her mine. It was selfish of me. I'd said the same thing to Sophie, gotten her pregnant with my child, and now I desired another woman as well. It was unforgivable. Only a piece of garbage could think the same way I was thinking. I said the same to Paul so many times up until now, call him a piece of garbage just the same. But I was a man too. Not now that I had two women that I loved and wanted. Couldn't I do my best to have them both, just as Paul had done? Perhaps Sophie would be disgusted with me and Roxy would abandon me, but wasn't it worth trying? Even if I lost them both? Oh, that's right. This wasn't just up to me. Whether Roxy and Sophie agree to it is a different story, I said finally. Indeed. Well, I'll go get Roxy. Huh? Leaving me with those words, Elena Lisa strode into one of the nearby tents. After a few moments, Roxy came out by herself. She didn't seem the least bit sleepy. Instead, she glanced over at me with a nervous look on her face. Perhaps Elena Lisa had said something to her. What is it that you wanted to talk to me about, Rudy? She sat in front of me, legs folded up under her. I followed her lead and sat up straighter. What was I supposed to say? Everything was happening so fast, I hadn't come up with the words yet. No, thinking wasn't necessary. My feelings for Roxy weren't something I needed to think over before speaking. I've been wanting to say this for a very, very long time, I began. Yes? I love you, teacher. I always have, since long, long ago. And I don't just love you. I respect you. You seem to be self-conscious of the fact that you can't use magic as well as me, but that doesn't matter to me. Your teachings have helped me numerous times. They're the only reason I was able to make it this far. Roxy's face gradually heated up. Mine was probably tinged pink as well. Talking face to face like this was embarrassing. Well, thank you for that. But, I added, stammering. Uh, you see, I also have a wife. Yes, I've heard. Was it really appropriate to say, so please be my second wife? Wasn't that a selfish way to put it? But I couldn't think of a better way to spin it. What should I do? I just had to say it, no matter how I spun it. My request remained the same. I was suggesting not splitting up with Sylphie, but instead trying to bring Roxy into the family without seeking Sylphie's input first. I would have to get her approval after the fact. That was exactly the kind of thing a garbage human being would do. But still, I had to say it now. Roxy might wander off if I didn't. She was the kind to immediately set off once the job at hand was done. If I didn't stop her now, it might be too late. Excuse me. Enough. If I was going to regret not saying it later, then I should blurt it out now, even if that made me a piece of shit. My wife's name is Sylphiette Greyrat now, but she didn't originally have a surname. She was just Sylphiette. Roxy nodded. Yes, so I've heard. Would you mind making your name Roxy Greyrat as well? She looked suspicious for a moment, but she must have realized what I meant in the next instant because she clamped a hand over her mouth. Roxy regained her composure almost as quickly. I appreciate you saying that, truly. But are you sure you shouldn't get your wife's approval first? Of course, we were talking about a complete stranger becoming a part of our family. Absolutely had to consult Sylphie. I'd also need to explain it to my younger sisters, Lilia too. I do need her approval, I admitted. In that case, she was going to turn me down. It seemed Roxy wanted me to choose her, and only her after all. No sooner had that thought popped into the back of my head than, in that case, please ask me again after you received your approval, Roxy said with a serious look on her face, the snow sprinkling down around us. Please ask me again. The words asked echoed in my mind. I felt my body heat up as I registered the fact that she hadn't rejected me. We drew close to the magic city of Sharia. I talked to Lily about Roxy as well, her usual poker face in place. She merely said, I see then. Very well. It didn't sound like she judged me for it, probably because she'd been in the same position as Roxy before. No, that wasn't it. It was because the notion of monogamous marriage only existed in Millis. Either way, it took a weight off my shoulders to have made my promise to Roxy and gained Lilia's understanding. All that remained was to get home, explain the circumstances of the trip to Sylphie, and bow my head before her as I pleaded for Roxy's inclusion in the family. I still felt the weight of the knowledge that I would need to explain to Paul and Zena's situation to Aisha and Norn, but they would have to accept it as I had. I was certain Norn would react with anger and blame me, but I was still going to do it. I wasn't going to run, no matter how things turned out. I would have no regrets. Regrets? Just then, anxiety reared its ugly head. Those are the man god's words. He said I would regret something. True enough, there was Paul's death, Zenith becoming a husk, and me losing my left hand. I lost a lot, yet strangely enough, I didn't feel regret. I could thank Roxy for that. Yes, part of me thought, if only I'd been stronger, if only I'd learned how to wield the sword better, if only I'd been strong enough to defeat that Hydra. But another part of me felt strongly that it would have been impossible either way. My aptitude for battle wasn't the best. I couldn't wrap that battle aura stuff around my body, nor did I know how to try. You had to be able to manipulate your battle aura to advance as a swordsman. Besides, the Hydra had been immune to magic. Even if I had worked diligently to learn king tier spells, they would have been useless. There might have been some other way, but the past was the past. That was why I had no regrets. Paul's death had allowed me to reflect on my past. I'd worried people and caused them trouble, but ultimately there was good that had come out of it all. What I felt wasn't regret, it was sadness. Just sadness. Sadness was all I carried with me from the Beggaret continent. But that was also why I felt so anxious now. Perhaps the thing I would really regret has yet to come. For instance, maybe something had happened to the little sisters I left behind. Remember what he said? He mentioned this and that about Linnea and Persenna. Did that mean something had happened to one of them then? Was I supposed to have enlisted their help to solve some kind of problem here? Or, don't tell me, had something happened to my pregnant wife? Those are the only things that might leave me with regrets. Despite my apprehension, we couldn't move any faster. The weather had worsened and the snow was rapidly picking up. The others seemed unfazed, but Zenith was struggling. I used my earth magic to craft a seat I could hoist onto my back and carried her. Armadillo looked half frozen. Perhaps we should have left it behind after all, but it was already too late for that. I should at least give it a name so it doesn't die without one, I decided. Dillo. Dillo was a good name. Do your best, Dillo. It had taken just 5 days to reach the ruins where we were on our way to Begarit, but it was taking over 10 on the return journey. It wasn't that long compared to all my adventures so far, and yet somehow it felt like the longest leg of the entire trip. We arrived at the magic city of Sharia. I immediately headed for my house, feeling my pace quicken. Hey boss, what is it? Looks like you've seen a ghost. Shouldn't you cast some of that detoxification stuff on yourself? Geese asked with concern. I ignored him and just continued my hurried advance. So this is the center of the city, huh? Should we go ahead and get ourselves an inn for now? There's no way we can stay we can all stay at the boss's place with this many people. There was someone talking behind me, but their words didn't reach my ears. Hey boss, you listening? Boss? Hey, Rudius! At some point, I broke into a sprint. I left everyone behind and dashed towards my house, down the familiar streets I'd walked before, in a city I'd lived in for over a year now. Those I passed regarded me with confusion, wondering what my hurry was. I went as fast as I could, stumbling, completely off balance. Perhaps the lack of a left hand was impeding my ability to run smoothly. Just as I was about to
remember the days when I could break into spirit.
Sorry.
All right. Just in case you didn't see my post, that I tagged you in. When we get to the end of this chapter,
my bad.
When we get to the end of this chapter, which is in like 4 pages, that's where we're gonna cut it off at. Yeah.
Oh, my bad. Okay. I didn't see the word sprint.
You
I broke into spirit.
Yourself. You corrected yourself after spirit. You just auto-corrected yourself.
It was a very spirited sprint. It's okay.
It was a very
I'm sorry. I was like, I was kind of seeing it in my head, and I was seeing him run.
Very,
I was like,
very
I want to
spirited.
know what love is, as he's like running as fast as he can.
I want you to show me.
Yeah, as he's like moving as fast as he can back home.
My God. Also, sorry about that. Yeah. Okay, really quick. Go. What you thought was Backstreet Boys wasn't truly Backstreet Boys. I'm so glad I skipped through a lot of that because I was just checking where the song ended because I needed to know what version I sent, and that that song was actually something that is a surprise that we're putting into Overlord. Sorry about that. I forgot I was playing it in Discord, so the audio kicked over to the stream, so they heard some of that audio because it was being played over Discord. But I was checking what version of the song I had sent over to our editors. I needed to know. I was like, oh my God, I had a panic moment and I had to check. He said, all good. I ain't no snitch. No, you're good. I hope it wasn't on there for very long. It's gonna be on the. Thank God nobody really pays attention to our like VOD channel.
Yeah.
The amount of shit that has been said or accidentally sneak peeked on some of these streams. Yeah. All right. Sorry about that. Please continue.
Yeah, no problem. Hold on a sec. Move my copy of Dan to Dan onto the shelf over here. All right.
No. You said it wrong. It's don da don don da don don
Don, 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 don. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Dan to Dan.
I still say to date, my favorite song that Creepy Nuts has done is Mirage, the second opening for Call of the Night. It's so fucking good. I can't get that song out of my head. Oh, it's really good.
I should watch the anime too. I heard it's really good.
Oh, dude, yeah.
It's amazing.
Call of the Night is fucking amazing.
I just think that the name is cool.
Moon.
Ooh, that sounds fucking cool. Moon.
Yes.
YouTube did a thing and I've been ruined.
Uh-oh.
What did they do?
I know how Call of the Night ends.
Oh wait, is it already done?
Oh,
Yeah,
pooey.
I know what happens.
Wait, is the whole thing done?
I know what happens to the two main. The first 2 seasons are. I know what happens to the two main characters.
So it's like the whole series done on like the manga or something?
It just popped up on my YouTube recommended. Yeah, the manga's done.
Why?
I am a firm believer that YouTube and Google like listens in to your mic and like was like, oh, we heard that you like this thing, so we're gonna feed you videos related to that thing.
It's like, my dude.
I hate
no,
that.
I think they fed me videos because I was looking up the theme song. I was looking up Mirage. I was listening
That
to
also
a
could be
bunch.
it.
But yeah, it's all related because
But
there's
they
no
were
fucking
like,
filtering that shit.
So the algorithm fed me stuff, and I got spoiled on like how the manga ends.
That's
and
ass. I'm sorry.
I was so bummed about that. Yeah.
That sucks ass.
I was like, dude, YouTube, why?
Algorithms.
Oh.
That's why.
Algorithm. It's like, dude, the algorithm screws me again. You won't. They won't do anything to help promote the content we put up on the channel, and then they actively send me spoilers. I hate YouTube's algorithm.
Oh, yeah, me
There's
too.
nowhere else to go.
Yeah, you can't look at something or look up anything until, like, what was it? Until you're completely done with it, or else you're gonna get fucked.
Or at least
Tell
as
me
satisfied as
why.
you're gonna
The
get
worst
with
is
it.
like with a game, like when you're trying to look up something about a game, and then they're like all
Donkey Kong
bosses,
Bonanza
no,
happened to me,
yeah, yeah, and then it's like has all the bosses in like a 5-panel shit, and it's like, come on, man, it's like
Oops, all
front and
bosses.
center. I hate those thumbnails.
Yeah.
Or
They
like
piss me
all
off so
boss
much.
reaction to this one thing or whatever.
Yeah, it's like, dude, fuck off. I hate
Oh,
those
man.
thumbnails. Anyway,
No, you're fine. You're fine.
should I continue?
Yeah, I mean, if you want.
Oh yeah,
You
we're
only
almost
got
done
4
on
more
this.
pages.
Yeah, you got-
Yeah, we're
yeah.
almost there. Okay.
Go for it.
Just as I was about to fall over, someone grabbed me and held me upright. What's all this hurry for? It was Elise. It's just, I
Oh,
started to say,
3
grasping for
more.
words. Oh, okay,
3 more pages.
I can
yeah.
go through that.
1, 2, 3. Oh no,
3.
no, it actually is 4. Okay.
Okay.
Because where it says on my
Crunch.
end it's 83% complete, and then
Ooh, okay.
we hit chapter 14. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I'm at 82%, but it might be my window size. Anyway. She waited a moment before asking again. What is it? You've been panicking for a bit now. Did something happen? Oh, no, I just have this feeling that Sophia is in trouble. In trouble? Based on what? Nothing, really. I brushed her off and broke into a hurried walk again. I wanted to relieve this anxiety as quickly as possible. My house was just ahead. If things were as they should be, Sophie's stomach should be heavy with a baby, and she should be home. Or maybe she'd already given birth? It would be a premature one. If so, that happened. Then maybe... anything but that. Anything else. I just didn't want any more bad things to happen. I arrived at the house. The snow had piled up, but the house didn't look that much different from when I'd left. The number of trees and potted plants in the garden had increased slightly. A product of Aisha's hobby, I assumed. The place looked more beautiful than it had before. I snatched my key out of my belongings, shoved it in the hole in the door, and struggled to turn it. The metal was cold and my hand was trembling. The door wouldn't open. The key wouldn't turn. I reached for the door knocker. It felt like ice on my skin, but I banged it several times anyway. Are you sure it isn't already open? I asked Elise from behind me. As she suggested, I tried the doorknob, turned, and pulled. And it came open. Too careless, I thought as I started to step in. My eyes immediately met those of someone at the opposite end of the room, trying to open a door. Oh, big brother? Aisha, is everyone safe? What do you mean? Puzzled, Aisha's gaze flitted between me and Elise, now standing beside me, then behind us. When I followed and looked back, I saw Roxy struggling to catch her breath. For the moment, I grabbed Aisha by the shoulders. She must have sensed something was off, because she glanced at her right shoulder and her eyes went wide. Visibly shocked, she looked between my face and my hand. Huh? What is this? What happened to your... I see you're safe. What about Sylphie? Huh? Oh, she's right in here? At her words, I realized that just behind Aisha, looking equally puzzled, was Sylphie. Her stomach had doubled, or perhaps tripled in size. Even her breasts were a bit swollen. She was about 7 or 8 months along now, probably already producing breast milk. No, that didn't matter right now. Rudy, what is it? She asked. Sylphie, are you all right? Nothing's happened? Huh? No, everyone's been really wonderful to me, and Aisha's been doing her best to help out as well. So Sylphie was fine? Yes, I could see as much. What about everyone else? I asked. Norn? Are Lily and Zenoba and the rest safe? Huh? Safe? Nothing's happened here, she said, still confused. No one's gotten sick or injured? No, nothing noteworthy. Sylphie looked utterly dumbfounded, as if she had no idea what I was talking about. Seeing that expression, I realized there really was nothing wrong. Big brother? By the time I realized it, Aisha's face was towering over me. Boy, she sure had grown. No, wait, I just sunk to the floor. Okay, I breathed out. The tension left my body. In the end, the regret the man god had spoken of was the regret around Paul's death, and the deaths of my parents from my previous life. The rest of my anxiety had been needless worry. As that sank in, I let out a huge sigh of relief. Thank God. Sophie gradually approached and rested her hand on my shoulder. I could feel her warmth spread through the fabric of my robe. She immediately knelt down and gently wrapped her arms around me. I slipped mine around her as well, albeit clumsily, with my left hand missing and squeezed. A familiar scent filled my nose. Welcome home, Rudy. There was so much I needed to tell her. About Paul, about Zenith, about Roxy. I also needed to welcome those I'd left in the plaza into my home. I'd come all the way here by myself after all. I panicked a bit too much. Nothing had happened. I should have just taken my time with the others. But there was something I needed to say first, before I did any of that. I'm home. I'd returned.
And there we go. That's where we're going to wrap things up for today. I figure because we got 2 more chapters left, and then no, we got, okay, so we've got 14, 15, and 16, and that's it. There's no side stuff, no special story. It's just straight up this. So this is literally okay,
like
so
season 2 ending, right?
this is very quick stuff in the anime.
Getting close,
honestly.
Yeah.
The stuff that we're about to go through, I don't know if this was an episode or just part of an episode. So we've got at this point, I think it's safe to assume that everybody here listening has seen season 2 of the anime. So we've got the report about what happened. Then we have the whole pitching the Roxy situation, and Norn blowing up about it, and then Rudy talking to his dad's grave. Those are the 3 things that are. Those are the 3 chapters, and those are the 3 big, key, important moments left. But I think the anime just kind of ran through it. We covered it, and we did so pretty accurately. But I don't know. When I realized that this isn't that this is 3 full chapters, I start to realize, man, there's a lot of content here. But then when I go to the anime, I'm like, wow, man, they kind of went through this pretty quickly, huh? So that's the thing. You got pages upon pages, and then when it ends up in the anime, it just goes by so fast. Alrighty. Well, thank you, Shem, for reading tonight in place of Moon.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Who's not feeling completely up to snuff. Recovering from a cold. By the way, Moon, I got a notification from Amazon. I'll tell you about it later.
Yeah, I fixed it.
Yeah, I'm getting notifications from your account. I'm like,
I don't know why.
This is weird.
Kind of annoying.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because our accounts are linked.
I mean, yeah, I know they're linked, but still.
But I don't know why those on this end through Alexa. But okay. And good news, the drywall people did come in and fix at least my closet, so I can go back to using my closet for voiceover stuff again. So thank goodness I'll be able to turn in those auditions and get some recording done. That would be good. But yeah, guys, thank you so much. Really do appreciate you all coming and hanging out with us. I did get a lot of stuff done in the interim. For Overlord, I had to do director stuff. I had to cut pickups, and we've still got more pickups because we realized we want, when we go through and we watch the scenes, we realize, oh, this is a perfect place where we could put a bunch of funny background stuff here or here. So there's gonna be a lot of stuff in the background that you guys may or may not catch. It depends on how we handle things in the audio mix. But it's going to be a bitch and a half to subtitle. I'll say that much. But yeah, we're having a good time, and we're finding ways to take sort of tense or serious moments and just have a little fun with them, and use background voices to make it sound a little silly. So, yeah, man. All right. You guys have any last minute stuff y'all want to say before we go ahead and start rating someone? I'm gonna take a look at who we got. Who is
That
on?
That A Perfect Blue and Muppet Treasure Island double feature is a very funny double feature. I would recommend it.
I want to watch it now.
I don't think that's odd. Perfect Blue and Muppet Treasure Island. Wow, that is a combo. Yep. That is certainly a combo.
Dang.
They're basically they both have characters in it that have faces. It's pretty much the same movie.
Also, all right, for those who may have showed up late, I'm going to go ahead and let you know this. Okay, without adding the intro TLDR, because I did have to make a TLDR for the beginning of Overlord, and I do not count the credits as a scene in and of itself. Without counting those two, we have 16 scenes in Overlord. Now, that may not sound like a lot until you realize that scene 12 is like 7 minutes, but that's our longest scene. That is our longest scene to date. But all right, just understand this. 16 scenes, even if a scene is only 2 minutes, right? 16 times 2. Think about how
32.
much time that is. Yeah, exactly. That's like 32 right there. All right?
Yeah.
So this is already going to be over 40 minutes long. Just
Yeah.
know that. We weren't playing around. We did the dang thing.
Yeah.
But and for anybody who's like, "Oh man, you this isn't a bridge, this is fan dub." I want to see you take an entire season and like 13 episodes, 6+ hours of content, and shrink it down to 40 minutes. Do that, and we'll talk about what is and isn't abridging. Alex Lee is streaming? Wait, really?
Oh, nice.
Let's go check to
how
see
do I
what
find
Daredevil's
this?
up to.
How do I find this?
It's like, send me links, damn it. I need it now.
I'm sure I don't know what he streams
What
as
is his name?
username
What
wise.
is his name on here?
I don't know. Let me go check. I do love Alex Lee though. I think he's a great voice actor.
I wanna rate Alex Lee.
I forget what character.
I'm not asking what he's playing. I want to know what his name is.
He plays Jinu Sung. That's
Well,
what
yes.
he plays.
Yeah. Well, yes.
But he's also
what is his
Daredevil.
name?
Gotcha.
What is his name on here? You can't send links, dude. That's not
Alex
don't-
Lee VO.
Alex
Yeah.
Lee VO.
But it's like ALEKS.
Alex Levo.
Yeah.
Wait, ELEKS?
Yeah, like ALEKS. Yeah.
Oh, Alex Lee VO. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Found him.
Yeah.
There we
Yeah.
go. Found him. I don't know if we can raid him, but I will definitely do my dangdest to do so.
Yeah.
If we can't, then we'll raid Joel. Porcelain Maid.
Joel.
Joel. Alex Lee. There we go. All right. That being said, 2,400. Wow. What is? Yeah. He's almost double. He's almost double Joel's. He's almost double Joel's. I don't know if we're gonna be able to, but I'll certainly do the dang thing. We are not sister leveling. We're just solo leveling a bridge.
Different people.
Genu is Batman confirmed.
We are. Yeah, we are. We believe we are of the.
Genu Sung is
the
Korean
Geno
Batman. Genu Sung is
Yeah.
Korean Batman.
We
Yeah,
believe in Korean Batman.
We believe in Korean Batman. Genu Sung is Korean Batman. All right.
We don't believe in sister fucking or stepsister fucking.
No, we're not saying that in his thing, though.
No. Very, very specifically not. That's why I'm saying it here, not over there.
All right, let's see if we can. We got a couple. All right, so yeah, just all right, so we're gonna raid. Our raid message will be Jinwoo Sung is Korean Batman. It's still spelled Jinwoo, but it's pronounced Jinwoo. Just so everybody's clear. All right, you guys ready? Wish Alex a good dog if they get the raid message. All right. Later, everybody. Take care.
Bye. Thanks for coming.
Now.
See ya.